I'd be very happy to come out and work with you. I'm having trouble finding my little thing where I say,
Third page.
third page?
For me and mine.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
That's it there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
there's my agenda.
All right, okay, everyone. This is Ashley Beccaro with the Office of Charter Schools. It is 9:03, and I'm going to take attendance to make sure we have a quorum. Terry Stoops, John Eldridge,
Here.
Bruce Friend,
Here.
Rita Hare, Hilda Parlay.
She's there.
Okay, Rita's there
Rita's
too.
hand is up.
Okay. Shelley Shope, Cheryl Turner,
Here.
Todd Godby, Eric Sanchez, Dave Machado,
Here.
Bart Danielson,
Here.
Stephen Gay,
Stephen's there too.
and I can see Stephen online. All right, so we do have a quorum, 7 here, and we can go ahead and get started with opening.
Good morning. Mr. Danielson, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance?
It's all right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Charter School Advisory Board. The Charter Schools Advisory Board works to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. Our ethics statement. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the Advisory Board. Does any member of the Advisory Board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us this meeting?
Mr. Turner, I'll be recusing from Langtree Charter, Westlake Prep, and Cabarrus Charter.
Thank you. If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. Okay, we need to approve the meeting agenda for today. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion that we approve today's agenda, April 11th, 2023.
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we need to approve the March meeting minutes. Are there any changes to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion we approve the March 2023 CSAB meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we need to approve the revised 2023 meeting calendar.
Yep, that is just, we have just moved the June meeting to the 6th. I believe it's a Tuesday, so that it will coincide with the RTO presentations, so that those schools don't have to come here twice in 1 week.
Was there a need to do anything about August as well?
We will, when we talk about the state board stuff today, I will mention that, and I'm planning on probably doing a poll for people to try to get an idea of when we could do a special called meeting in August. Yeah. But right now, I think we can just approve this and then do a special call.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the adjusted calendar.
I'll second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I guess we're ready for My Future NC.
Let me pull up your thing real quick.
he's the superintendent's person, so he can't vote. He took,
Can I just get confirmation from those online that you guys can hear us?
he left the DPI.
Hilda or Rita, can you guys hear us okay? I think it might be one of these.
Wow, that would be a big deal. Is he on, was he on? Is he on? Wow, he didn't stay here very long.
I can do it for you, if that works. Yeah. Let's see, I'm just trying to see what's happening here.
Yeah, so that's President, what's going on?
I'm sorry, Cecilia. Let me try to get.
I feel like there should be some elevator music or something in the background. Ding, 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 ding. That's it.
Can you guys hear us online?
It says unmute me. Did you see it? It says unmute on the screen.
That's, I don't know who that is.
Ashley, it's working now.
It's working now? Okay.
Yes, yes, we hear you now.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Awesome, thank you.
Wow. I got it.
All right, good to go, Cecilia.
All right, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about my future NC with the group. I know that your agenda is always tight, so we are excited to be able to tell you how we're performing against the state's attainment goal. We presented probably about 3 years ago now, and wanted to come back. I think there's been a changing of a lot of the seats here, so I want to start with the assumption that you all are not familiar with the state's attainment goal, and then bring you up to speed quickly. So the first thing is I have with me to share a couple of slides Gina Jong, who is our manager of data and research, and she will be able to share a little bit in just a moment. When you think about back in 2019, the General Assembly, if you want to flip a slide for me. In 2019, the General Assembly codified into state law that North Carolina would have a state attainment goal. And the goal is to make sure that we have enough individuals with the levels of education to fill the jobs that North Carolina has and is continuing to recruit. The goal is to have 2 million North Carolinians ages 25 to 44 that have an industry value credential or a post-secondary degree by the year 2030. This is codified into state law, and it was with bipartisan support and a signature of the governor. So this was one of the few things they agreed on that year, but we're super excited. My Future NC is a 501c3 nonprofit that was stood up at the end of 2019 in order to move this goal into action. Next slide. One of the best assets that My Future has is our board of directors. And the board of directors consists of 4 different sector groups, if you will. We have all of the education leaders in the state. We have policymakers. We have somebody that's designated from Senator Berger's office, from Speaker Moore's office, and from the governor. We also have philanthropy. And then we have key business leaders who sit on the board. In addition to that, we have individuals that serve on an advisory board. It's the Advisory Board of Commissioners. I can tell you we have someone currently on that board or on the commission who is second thing is, we identify and we advocate for good policy. So we have a legislative agenda. This session, we're focused on two different policies in particular. One is to have career plans for middle and high school students. That legislation is moving over to the General Assembly. Charters are recommended to have career plans, not required. The other is we're trying to encourage funding for industry valued credentials in our colleges, because we've got the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid. That's for federal Pell Grants. That does not cover non-degree credentials. So I'll speak to that as well in just a moment. The third thing we do is we monitor progress toward the goal. We monitor progress both at the state level as well as at the local level. So Gina's going to share a little bit about how we're monitoring progress not only across each of our counties, but also a recent profile specific to our charter school community. So how are we performing? And we're to reach 2 million by 2030. When the state first started with this goal, we had about 1.3 million already that were aged 25 to 44 that would fall into the category. It was anticipated that if we didn't do anything else, we would end up with about 300,000 more just with natural progression. People moving into the state, people moving out of the state, and then also those that are getting a college degree. So how are we right now? Based on the most recent census data, we're falling short by about 31,000 where we needed to be at this point in time. So we're about 31,000 behind where we need to be. We've got about 444,000 that we need in order to meet the goal. What are we anticipating? As you've read in the news, college enrollments are down. So when you think about the education pipeline, while we might be 31,000 behind, we anticipate that gap's going to grow unless we take significant steps forward. Next slide. We are data-driven, research-driven, so everything that we focus on is backed by good
one of your priorities there is pre-K enrollment. How does that fit in? I mean, that pre-K seems a long way from the 25 to 40, whatever. How does that fit into the opportunity area?
There are a few goals for that. So NC pre-K enrollment is important because it increases the third grade reading level and math performance. And also, NC pre-K enrollment is important for those adult learners who want to go back to the school. And having a good quality of pre-K is important for those adults that are going back to school and earning their degrees. And our goal is 25 to 44 years old. And if their children have a good NC pre-K, and they will certainly.
Okay,
have
so that
more.
just makes the certificate opportunities more generally available for an adult then. I mean, obviously, that's not gonna have any impact on the child by 2030, but,
Yeah,
Okay.
and but our work will not stop by 2030. We always said 2 million by 2030 and beyond, because we don't want to redo this work for the state. And certainly, if we improve the student performance right now, they will have an impact on our state economic and educational attainment beyond 2030.
thank you.
And so here's the preliminary draft for the charter school profile. So after reviewing the existing county profile, we pull out those data that are available for, have the availability for charter schools, and then put them into a 2-pagers. We have one charter school profile for each prosperity zone. We are not doing by county because charter school often serve multiple counties. But we are exploring the possibility of having all those indicators in our spreadsheet that have the school level data. So if anyone interested in digging into school level performance, they will have the data online. But profile will be just by prosperity zone, so they will have 8 charter school profiles on key indicators on the academic readiness and college and career access. And I will certainly send you the draft after the meeting, and would love to have your feedback on this as we develop the charter school profiles. So this will couple with the attainment profile that serve as a resource for our communities. For now, I'll turn to Cecilia to talk about our local work.
Great, and you asked an excellent question. So in regards to 2030, it is 2 million by 2030 that would meet the workforce needs. Our goal is to try to make sure that we lay a basic foundation for success, so that when we get to our 2040 goal, we're not going backwards. So NC Pre-K certainly allows for adult learners to go back if you've got a quality pre-K program for adult learners. But the main objective around NC Pre-K is to ensure that we've got students coming through the pipeline that are academically prepared. So when you think about the work, we can sit in downtown Raleigh and we can talk about great policy, and we can talk about wonderful things that need to be done. But we recognize that it's very important that the work be locally owned and locally driven. So Gina mentioned the need to have each of our local counties adopt a local goal. In addition to that, it's important that they put together a plan that would be able to reach the local attainment goal. So our goal there is to ensure that we've got individuals located in each of our economic prosperity zones to be able to help with the local work. We've got one person that is physically located in each of our economic prosperity zones across the state that works for My Future NC, and they're working with each of our counties across the state. Next slide. So My Future has a number of different initiatives that we're focused on. There's some that are listed here on the slide. I really want to focus on one in particular that is something that the charter school community can also get engaged in, and that's around our FAFSA work. I mentioned earlier, FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. This is one of those things that allows for an affordable education for individuals coming out of K-12. So when you look at the opportunities for growth, next slide, Ashley, when you look at the opportunities for growth that were the top 3 in the state back in 2020, one of those was NC Pre-K. It's consistent across 20 and 2022 data. The other was around our low-performing schools. We shifted the low-performing schools to just focus on reading and math, because those are the indicators that lead to low performance. continue that push until we hopefully will be able to get 100% of our charter schools. And what this data does is it equips the counselors in those charter schools to be able to see, has a student completed the FAFSA, have they started a FAFSA, have they finished the FAFSA? It does not share any kind of wage information, it doesn't share any confidential information, it simply equips the counselors to know, has a student started the FAFSA and actually officially completed it?
Who does that? I'm sorry. How do you register to get into that data sharing?
So the agreement would be between the head of the charter school and the North Carolina State Education Assistance Authority. We've got information we're gonna share with Ashley following this, so that you all will be able to push that out and hopefully encourage our charter school community to be able to reach out.
Would that be something cool to put into the newsletter?
Yeah, absolutely.
How can you tell if you've already, I think we've already done it, but I'm not sure.
Well, we've got a list of those, so we're happy to share that as well. So we can share the list of those that have it, those that do not, and then we can also share what you would want to do if you're interested in doing it. It's not required, but it certainly is beneficial for your counselors to know.
When you say 50% of charter schools, am I correct in assuming that's 50% of charters that actually have high school grades?
Yes, thank you for clarity. That is correct. The other thing that we're doing is we have FAFSA pilots across the state. We primarily focus on our K-12 LEAs. However, we are certainly open to our charter school community participating in these pilots. And what we're doing is we're coming in and we've got a lot of different resources that we're coming in behind you. And we've had some mini grants that we're offering and things of that nature. So we will have another FAFSA campaign. This is our third that we've executed on. We'll have another one in the fall. If there's interest there, we'd love to have the charter school community come alongside us in that. And then finally, the last thing that we're doing is, next slide, Ashley, we have a FAFSA summit that's coming up this summer. We will be inviting counselors and individuals who are interested in, we're calling it the Financial Aid Summit, because FAFSA is one piece of it, but we would certainly encourage the charter school community to have attendance there as well. There's no charge for this. It will be held in Raleigh, June the 20th and 21st. So we would love to invite the charter school community. Again, we'll share this specific information with Ashley. The last thing, I'll just wrap up with a call to action, and we've already touched on it. One would be for the charter school community, get engaged in these local goal setting. Our goal is to have our school boards, our school superintendents, our community college presidents, the trustees, the county commissioners, the county manager, our charter community, business and industry, all coming together collaboratively to try to figure out what local goal makes sense. Our charters are very important in this work as well. And so if you're interested in knowing what's going on in your local county, we're happy to share our county, our individuals with My Future NC that are located in the Economic Prosperity Zone. They can connect with your charters directly and share that information. The other is these data sharing agreements, which we will also share the information, and then attendance in the FAFSA Summit this summer. So with that, that's a wrap up. Happy to answer any other questions that perhaps have not already been asked.
I would imagine these new companies are coming in, like the Central North Carolina, like Woosby, Toyota. Are they a part of the? Because I know they're going to be hungry for seeking looking for guys that want jobs. People that want jobs. Are they a part of this?
They are, for example, with the ones you just mentioned, Chatham, we've got Chatham Community College, we've got the Chatham Schools, we've got the commissioners there all rallying around trying to make sure that not only, we're not looking for just credentials and degrees, we're making sure that it aligns with industry needs as well. So certainly they're involved in that as well as other areas across the state. The other thing that I'll highlight is we've got a number of our counties that are in rural parts of the state. And, they may ask the question, we don't have business and industry coming to our state, to our area of the state. What we all know is education leads to economic development.
Right.
And so, I would encourage the more educated a community can be, certainly the better they are positioned for economic development. And then the flip side is also true. We've got some of our local rural communities who are looking for jobs that can be done virtually. And so if you can upskill individuals that then feed into virtual jobs, you end up feeding in higher wages into your local community that lead to ancillary jobs that there again position the local community for growth.
You mentioned that you're about 31,000 short of where you'd like to be at this time. ultimately getting the 2 million. I'm just curious, are there any regions of the state though that are ahead of where you expected them to be at this point?
We've got some that are making progress, but at the same time, I think that everybody has a local goal that would lead to an increase in educational attainment. And that can vary all across the state. We've got a map, and when you start looking, you'll see varying degrees of educational attainment. The goal itself is not just, 2 million divided by 100 counties. What we did is we looked to see, are they a growing community? Have they got in-migration, out-migration? What's their current educational attainment? So these are calculated. We partner with Carolina Demography over at the UNC School of Government, and there's a very calculated formula that goes into these local goals. But everybody stands to increase attainment in order to meet 2 million.
The 2 million you're talking about, that's not degrees, that's people, is that correct? So
That's correct.
So we have, I'm at NC State in the business school, we have certificate programs at the graduate level, but those students already have degrees. So when they get a certificate of some sort, that doesn't count towards your 2 million.
That's correct.
So it'd be somebody who got a certificate and didn't necessarily get a college degree that would be, which, I'm all in favor of that, I think, for continuing education, even if there's no degree.
That's correct. Yeah, it's 2 million, because if I have 5 degrees, that does not count times 5. And at the same time, we've got a breakout based on labor data that shows how many more credentials are needed, 2 years, 4 years, masters, doctorates, across the board. The goal, of course, is to make sure that I call it a two-pronged approach. One is to make sure that we've got skilled individuals to fill the jobs and based on whatever those needs are of the jobs. And then the other is to provide opportunities for upward mobility, because we want North Carolinians to fill North Carolina jobs.
So in your advisory board, what fraction of those are educators who supply credentials? Okay, what fraction are businesses who presumably need to be guiding us on what credentials are valuable to them? Are we heavy on educators or heavy on industry seeking credentialed people in the advisory board?
The advisory board is made up of a variety of different types of disciplines. It would be anything from your K-12, your community colleges, higher ed, county commissioners, chambers of commerce, business and industry. It's a wide range of individuals.
So do we have any idea what fraction are business and industry?
I'd have to look and see, but I would guess that it's a smaller percentage than half. But at the same time, we also have, it's called the NC Workforce Credentials Council. That consists of the Department of Public Instruction, community colleges, Department of Commerce, and business and industry that all come together. And we've identified through business and industry input, what are the credentials that would count toward the goal for non-degree credentials? Not for the degrees, but for the non-degree. And if you go online, we've got it through nccareers.org. We've got a list of all the credentials that have been identified by business and industry specifically as to what they would value that lead to high demand, high growth jobs that pay a family sustaining wage.
Is there any place that you, by opportunity zone, that you can see what the credentials are that are needed in that zone?
Yes, we partner closely with the Department of Commerce, and they share with us what is needed and where. And on our profile, it will also tell you, for example, I know from the state of North Carolina that healthcare was the #1 job. This was in the 2020 data, and I think it probably still holds true, that would require a 4-year degree that pays $50,000 or more. So we've got it broken out so that you can see what the actual degrees and credentials are that are needed by discipline.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much for coming back and updating us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate you all. Thanks for our charter school community and everything they're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess we're ready for amendments.
Good morning.
Morning. Pass the torch to me, so I am presenting to you amendments this morning for your consideration. We have 3 to discuss today and vote on. The first one is Clover Garden School. The materials are in e-board for you to review. They are requesting the ability to relocate to a temporary location. So they are a K-8 school in Burlington, North Carolina, currently serving 680 students. They would like to add high school, so they are in the process of building a high school, which is 2.5 miles away from their current campus, and was scheduled to open in July for them to begin serving their students. That relocation was approved by our office since it's under 5 miles. On March 14th, they were told that construction was delayed on that building because there was a supply issue with the main distribution electrical panel. So then they had to look at their contingency plan. Their contingency plan is a building that is 10 miles away from their current campus, and so we would need to vote and approve on that temporary location for them.
How long are they thinking they'll need it? Like during next school year, will they be able to move before the school year's over to the permanent?
They're hoping it'll be less than 6 months. They're hoping they can move into their new building in January. And Heather Verregan is on the line. If I'm saying anything incorrect, please stop me. But they're hoping to be in there no later than January of 2024.
Have you looked at, anybody from OCS looked at this building? Does it have a educational certificate of occupancy? Or can it obtain?
For the contingency location, we have not looked at the building, but they do have a statement in the materials that you have from the zoning department that says that that is, it's currently being used for educational purposes, and so they do have that ability to have the educational function there.
So they will go ahead and add 9th grade this year. They just wouldn't add it in the temporary location until they can move.
They will go ahead and add 9th grade this summer for the first day of school in their contingency location.
Will the whole school go there or just 9th grade?
Heather, can you answer that?
Yeah.
Yes,
And thank
which?
y'all for hearing this out. We are actually already K-12, so we're not adding any additional grades or anything like that. So our current campus is great, but we have septic limitations and well and septic out here in the rural country of Alamance County. So we could not expand on our current campus. So this contingency plan location that we're using, this church, is going to be for just our high school kids. So we are moving our 9th through 12th graders over into this contingency plan location temporarily, 6 months or less, fingers crossed. Like, this was not the plan. The plan was to move across the street, but hopefully 6 months or less, but we would just be taking our high school kids. So this campus will continue to operate as K-8, and then high school will move hopefully to the contingency location temporarily, and then we'll move them to the new building once it's complete.
My mistake, I apologize.
No problem.
How many high school students?
So we're looking at around 270. This church alone, like I said, what they did was they renovated an old outlet. It used to be like the old outlets for our county, and so they have a whole plaza, a whole building that's just theirs that they lease out. They actually use it for, like I said, assembly and educational use. So there was another school in there previously. They have moved out. They did the same kind of thing. They had to stay there temporarily until their building was built. So you're looking at roughly about 270 kids that will be going over to this location.
Any other questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I'll make,
So
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Ashley, could you please take a roll call vote?
Discussion.
Sure.
Oh, any discussion?
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Aye.
Shelley Shope, Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby, Dave Machado,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
Stephen Gay.
Aye.
All right. it passes unanimously. Heather, this goes to State Board in May and June, so we'll be in contact with you.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
You too.
Okay, our next amendment is for Movement Northwest, and Tim Hurley is on the line. I see if there's any questions that I can't answer. They are a new charter school in Mecklenburg County. They're scheduled to open fall of 2023. They are requesting a reduction in their target enrollment from 250 to 125 for year one. They have learned that recruitment of first graders has proven to be difficult, and so they would like to project and budget for a more conservative launch to make sure that their enrollment projections are met.
They had the same problem last year.
This also aligns with the current Movement School model and ensures that Movement School Northwest hits their interim and final enrollment targets. So as of March 13th, and maybe you have an updated number, Tim, Movement Northwest had 96 students enrolled, and in the materials that you have, there's a chart that shows the adjusted enrollment target. So currently for kindergarten, their target is 125. They have revised that to 100. For first grade, their original target was 125, and they have reduced that to 25.
Ashley, I'm going to have to recuse from this one. I forgot
Okay.
that it was coming up.
Is the school currently in RTO?
Yes.
And is this reduction, so we can get closer to that 75% enrollment that it needs to be at?
Yeah, this is Tim Hurley. Yes, that is right. We learned that the 125 for first grade is just a tough target to hit, and so in the applications we submitted this year, we've reduced our opening target for all of our schools to 125, so we're not pushing that 75% margin. We also find about 35% of our enrollment for our new campuses actually comes in June, July, and August. So a lot of our families are still just looking and enrolling late, and so we'd rather budget conservatively to make sure we're not going through the craziness of last year.
Your application might need to reflect that in the future.
Yeah, I guess
Our future ones do, yes, sir.
So I guess just clarification here, the reason they're requesting, normally if they weren't in ready to open, we wouldn't be dealing with this question. They would just adjust their budget because they got fewer kids. Mm-hmm. Because they're in ready to open, they're at risk at not hitting the 75% threshold that their application, the application that we approved.
Correct. And it's considered, since they're in their first 5 years of having that first 5-year projection in the application, a major change like this would be considered in a revision, whereas most schools are past that, and so they don't have, if they make that change, they don't require an amendment.
I guess a question I have is why has it been difficult to recruit first graders?
I think most families, when they're looking for a new campus, kindergarten, there's no previous school. And then asking families to move their children after kindergarten, I think it's just more of a, uprooting for the family. And I think for most folks after kindergarten, not as many of them have had either such a strong good or strong bad response that they're motivated to move for first grade.
Mr. Hurley.
You have a location already identified, correct?
Yep, we have a location. We're under construction on it right now. And so, and with our budget, we realized we can make it work at 125 without a lot of challenge, given some of the support from the network and the foundation. So the 3 charters that we submitted previously are all targeted at this 125 to 150 mark. This one was submitted before that, and we realized it's just so much easier to launch with a small conservative base and grow from there.
Did you have a question, Rita?
I somewhat did, maybe even more of a comment. Good morning, Mr. Hurley. It just feels like it's a completely different budget. It's one half, it's 50% of what we approved. Just seems like a big shift as opposed to what was the charter that was approved at 250 with a budget for 250. I don't see a revised budget. I see the mention of one, and I think you still have a commitment letter from Movement Foundation. You can confirm that or not, but it's just a big shift. And we put a lot of trust in you when we approved, a change this large.
And we did submit a revised budget that I'll be glad to also send over. Because yes, it is a big shift. It's thankfully it was not as hard because it's what I would call our standard budget going forward, is operating at that lower 125 number. So yeah, it is a large shift based on what we submitted, but it's actually the way we prefer to open our schools in a standard way going forward.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I do think your schools, you kind of aim for a small community feel to keep them on that smaller side. And I value that too. I haven't seen the revised budget. I don't think it's in our materials, but I'll look and I'd like to at least be able to glance at that. But
certainly.
It's just a small start.
So is the plan to keep kindergartner at 125, first grade 25? Am I reading this correctly? Then in year 2, you will have 125 first graders. Would you then have second grade at 25?
Yes. Yeah. So, and that's a big thing that we learned is that we usually start with this small group of, first graders, or in the past second graders. That's about how many parents want to make that shift, and we tend to keep that group small so that we can have a strong, just cohesive group. But then our kindergartners, once we have that 125 kindergartners, it's not hard to get 100 of them to roll up to first grade. And so once we kind of get it going, the momentum carries the school forward because folks are comfortable enrolling kindergartners. It's just really hard to get a lot of people to switch for first grade is what we're finding.
So you'll have this would be one class of first graders, 25 in a class. Do you have any teacher? Does the revised budget include like a teacher aide?
It does. It'd be a teacher's and a teacher's assistant for that first grade.
Okay. So is the personnel changes in the budget largely just a reduction in the number of first grade teachers?
That's correct. Yeah, the changes are really exclusively that reduction. And then we also we're more conservative on our first grade, saying 100. So there's a reduction of 2 teachers there. But we continue to provide transportation, meals, all the things that are a special ed coordinator. And we're able to do that because of the partnership with the foundation.
Tim, this is John. Are you saying that you're not going to open up the lottery for any other second graders that may choose to come? You're going to have 25 go all the way through?
That's the way our model is right now, is we stick with that oldest group. That's something, I think we're learning each time we go, but typically, yes, that first group remains our first core group. And we find that's valuable to our model because when those second graders, when that group is in second grade, we want to make sure we're really dialed in, delivering great work for second grade and then third grade before the 100 kids hit behind them.
The only reason I ask that question is because I got to assume that not in all cases, but there's siblings involved in this situation, and that, enrolling a kindergartner, there's likely an older sibling that, having kids at 2 different schools would be a challenge. I don't know. I just foresee that as, I guess it's interesting that you're going to keep 25 small like that going all the way through, but I would think that there was opportunities to build on that grade level as it goes, just because you're going to have siblings that are going to want to try and keep in the same place.
That's absolutely correct. That's one of our challenges in enrollment. It's just that, like, as we're enrolling kindergarten and first graders when we launch, for parents with second, third graders, that's a tough choice for them. The reason we stick to it right now is because we want to make sure we can deliver on the academic promises we make. And so as we get stronger, if we feel like, hey, we can start to launch K1, 2 and enroll more, I think we would love that. But our priority is we just want to make sure we're delivering on the commitments to the families we do enroll. And so we lose a number because they don't want to split up their siblings, which I certainly understand.
Mr. Hurley, this is Rita Hare again. When we met, I guess at some point in 2022, you reported that you had received twice as many kindergarten applications last November than you had in 2019 or 2020, and noted that you received 300 total apps each of the past 2 years. These were in my notes from a previous meeting. So I guess my question is, are you actually creating a wait list of kindergartners or turning kindergartners away? Is that what you anticipate?
We, for Northwest specifically, or other schools?
That was a report under, I think it may have been an overall report that you submitted, although it's entitled Movement School Northwest.
Yep.
You just talked about strong recruitment.
Yes, and so across all of our campuses, let me just take a look here. Our total, across all of our campuses, our total numbers are high, and part of what we're doing is shifting. Folks are shifting to campuses closer to where they live. So let me just pulling back up our dashboard.
Just wondering if you're capping at 100 and then the rest are waitlisted or just turned away.
Yes, they are. Once we reach our enrollment target and over enroll, then folks are turned away. So right now across all of our campuses, we have 627 kindergarten applications as of today across our 4 campuses. And so for Northwest right now, we have 151 kindergarten applications. And our projection is that it will take 243 kindergarten applications to fill up Northwest. When we look at the application all the way through ADM, it's about 2.4, which is high. And I think a part of that is siblings. Also part of that is 90% of our students would qualify for free and reduced lunch. And so there's a lot of churn as we come into the summer. Folks move. We found with bus stops, even, if the bus stop is not close enough to the family, driving is not an option. So that's where as we get better and better at knowing what our real application to ADM rate is. It helps us. We're becoming more conservative, I would say, in here's what we know we can hit. And so that's what this reflects.
That makes a lot of sense. You also said at least 25% of your founding teachers for Northwest will come from existing movement schools. Do you still expect that?
Yes, we have selected our principal. She was a current teacher at Eastland. And yes, we have a great group of teachers to expand over.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions from CSET members? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would like to move that we approve the amendment for Movement Northwest.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Ashley, you just have to go to state board.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna support it. I guess I'm feeling a little bit like, and maybe I shouldn't feel this way, that the charter said we're going to accomplish X. Now we know we can't accomplish X, so let's request Y. So we can hit that 75% threshold. And maybe I'm seeing it through a slightly different lens, and maybe that's an incorrect way to perceive this, but just makes me wonder, like during the ready to open process, if a school thinks, oh, okay, now we've identified we're not going to meet this benchmark, well, let's just ask if we can change the benchmark then. But that's maybe for another discussion.
I see it that way as well, Bruce. I do understand that perspective. And I think part of it, they're gaining a lot of experience, the whole movement network. And And I agree. I mean, it's a different school at 125 as to 250, but I think for those 125, it's going to be a great school. And they've managed this enough that they can manage the budget, and it's they're dealing with the uncertainties of the population and the community around them. And it just makes a lot of sense to shift and make it work. But as I said earlier, it is a big shift, and we put a lot of confidence in their organization to make it successful.
Any other discussion? Ashley, when do you roll call, please?
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Approve.
Cheryl Turner,
Recused.
oh, that's right, Dave Machado,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
Stephen Gay.
Aye.
All right. Tim, this will go to State Board and we'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and the last one is for Aspire Trade High School. They also have an enrollment request, and this is for an increase. I don't know if I see Jennifer Nichols on the line for any questions that you might have.
She is.
She is?
Yep.
Thank you.
Could I get you to talk just a little bit louder, please?
Yes. Aspire Trade High School is a new school in Mecklenburg County, scheduled to open in the fall of 2023. They're requesting an increase in enrollment of 32 students for their incoming ninth graders, and then an increase of seats for each incoming ninth grade class thereafter. After feedback from CSAB and consulting with their architects and engineers, adjustments were made to the building that allowed for 3 more classrooms to be added. And so you will see current and projected enrollments in the materials that you have. As of April 4th, they have 158 seats confirmed, and an additional 21 students were pending, and I think Jennifer has updated numbers for us on that. So as of April 4th, they were meeting the required 75% total enrollment to open,
75%.
and averaging 3.5 students a day added to their enrollment, leading them to believe that they will meet this higher enrollment expectation that they would like.
So the request is for 30 more students than what was in the original app?
32 for their incoming ninth graders, and then increased in seats for their incoming ninth graders moving forward as well.
Why does this require us to approve that?
Because it's any increase would be especially for an RTO school, it's considered a revision to the application. So if they want, they could do it without funding, but if they want state funding, we can only request in CSADM what's in the application.
We're really only talking about the first year, because then they can do natural and 20% increase or 30% increase every year after that for the seats that they need for ninth grade, right?
They could, but I think if I looked at these numbers earlier correctly, they're asking for more than 30%. So it's easier to do it this way. The other option is they can come back each year and ask.
Oh,
Yeah.
got it.
Can we confirm that they have the wait list for this
They're only at 70.
additional increase for ninth and 10th grade?
Well, right now, they're only at 75%, she said.
They had 75% of the 210 or the 242?
That was as of April 4th. They had 158 seats. Jennifer, can you help with that? I know you have current numbers as well.
Yes, as of this morning, we have 168 confirmed, but we have 192 that have enrolled. We've got 168 confirmed. Of the 192 that have enrolled, we're really getting close to our 9th and 10th grade, and we're getting more confirmations and enrollments every single day. And so our concern is, because we're a 4-year program where we lock in our kids, and we don't really have the ability to add a junior without them facing the consequences of not having those other years in those labs with a hands-on program that we have. So really, we need to go ahead and add them now so that we don't miss them, because if we don't add a 9th and 10th grade this year, they won't be able to come. And so our concern is, at the rate that we're going with adding students every single day, that we don't want to leave kids out if we can help it. So this is a chance to get them now. We have a lot of interest. Our website's blowing up. Our Facebook postings are blowing up, and we're getting more and more exposure in the community. We just did a WBTV our WBTV media shot. We've got articles coming out in multiple magazines. So we just don't want to leave kids behind. And it's really good if we can get them now, get them in the program, and really give them that opportunity to take the time to get that hands-on experience that they need. This is a 4-year program. We start our 9th graders right in their career path.
Why 242? Like, where'd that number come from?
Well, we looked at our building, and we wanted to make sure that we're able to. Our building is right now configured for 523 students, and so we wanted to make sure that we're being conservative, but yet we're not leaving kids out. So that's where we are with it, and we also want to make sure that we've locked down every one of our trade areas. We were going to slowly add trade areas, but the kids and the corporate partners are coming out of the woodwork to do these trade areas and career areas. So we're actually going to launch every one of them this fall. So we wanted to make sure that we are giving the advantages to the kids that we can give them, but we're also making sure that we have a solid program in all areas, all aspects.
So did I hear you say right now you have 168 confirmed?
Right. We have 192 applications or enrollments today with 168 confirmed, and we're getting confirmations every single day. Of that, the split is really amazing. It's really doing well on both 9th and 10th graders. Our big concern really was 10th graders, but we're not having any issue whatsoever with enrolling 10th graders. So it's tracking right along the way it should. Right now, of the 192 that applied, 110 of those are 9th graders, 82 of those are 10th graders. So we're really tracking really well. We just really feel like we'll run out of spaces for students, and we can't do a wait list. It just doesn't work that way for our program.
So you do understand that the 75% then goes from 75% of 210 to 75% of 242?
Yes, that's 182 kids, and we're already at 168 with kids being confirmed every single day. So we feel confident.
What's the drop dead for the 75%? What date do they have to have 75%?
June?
In June, what we do is, in June, all of the RTO schools will appear here, and we'll give you a final update, and then you guys can discuss any concerns, and then that you make your final recommendation to open or not to open, and that goes to State Board in July. So really by June, sometimes like last year, I think we had maybe 1 or 2 special called meetings at the end of June before State Board to like firm up anything that wasn't clear, and make sure the schools could get their final, T's crossed. But July State Board is the absolute latest. So, and that's July 7th. So it's a couple months.
At the rate that we're going, I would anticipate we'll have another 60 kids minimum by the June date.
Jennifer, this is Rita Hare.
Mm-hmm.
Your notes say that the building is at 65% complete, which to me is a little concerning. There's 35% remaining. Can you address that?
Yeah, actually, we only said 65% because I haven't had a chance to be in the building in the last 2 weeks. The amount of work that's being done right now, because we're actually going to finish work. So the drywall's in. It's going exponentially. It's going so quickly now that we're completely dried in, and it's just moving really fast with all of the trades in there at the same time. So I don't anticipate any problems whatsoever. We will be at TCO by the end of June without any problem, and the CO at the end of July. The only structural problem that we have right now is our HVAC units, which 1 out of 5 showed up, but the others are scheduled to be here in the next 6 weeks, so we should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
What's your
Remind
opening date, Jennifer?
August 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Our furniture will be in on the 15th of July. We really are. We're on track. We've been really checking the details. So we're on track. We've already started our stuff for the National School Lunch Program. We're really tracking really well, and I have all 3 admin working right now already. So they're hard at work getting everything together. We're already hiring teachers, so we feel good about where we are. we have much work to do, but we feel really good on all fronts that we're where we need to be. So we're tracking everything right now.
Yeah, this is Rita again. Your enrollment's really exciting. It's a very innovative. You're a true charter, and it's exciting to see this kind of response. I noticed that you've adjusted your lunch service, so you will be, I guess, using a vendor now. That's a shift, right?
Yes, we
shift
took,
too.
yeah, we took the big kitchen out because it was another $1 million investment with an extra $50,000 a year. And we took that out and went to the warming kitchen. And then that added us the 3 additional classrooms that we needed. And when I first came, when we defended the application with CSAP, one of the comments was, you really need more kids in the building. We really feel like if you're going to start this program, you need more children. The only way to do that really was to take out the kitchen, the full service kitchen. But we're working with the National School Lunch Program. We've already sent out, as of Friday, we sent out our RFP. So we feel like we're in a good place. We also are working toward having the named program for our culinary program. And so in that, we also are finding more vendors. So we're actually feeling really good about that. We've actually got 3 vendors right now that we feel will go ahead and turn in an RFP.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
242 for 9th and 10th graders is aggressive and impressive. So, Jennifer, keep up good work.
Thank you. We're super excited. We've gotten a lot of exposure in the last 2 months, and that's what's caused us to really blow up. But we've been working really hard on the ground, and what's exciting to us is that we've hit our weighted lottery numbers. We've really been excited about the fact that we're getting into those low-income communities. We've already bought our buses. We've even bought a minibus. We really feel good about where we are in terms of the overall. The only thing, we had a funny conversation Friday, but the only thing that's really difficult right now is we need more girls. We're at 75-25%. And one of the girls Friday that's coming in from Colorado and has already enrolled, and she was super excited that we were 25% girls, 75% boys, and Dad was not. So he said, yes, we have differing opinions in our household about that. And so it's been really fun to talk to families. I will tell you that I've never seen families as excited as they are about this program. I mean, they're coming in, we're doing pop-up events for them, so they come get their T-shirts, and we're doing swag. In fact, we're just launching today a program for the students to get more excited. We've actually asked them to add more students too, so to go out and help us to recruit. What we're doing is providing a program where they can get prizes for getting more students. For every student they have already enrolled, like a friend that they brought, they get a ticket. If they enroll more, they get tickets. We're doing a big drawing on the 29th. We're going to do a big pizza fest with them. So anyway, doing a lot of fun stuff.
Make a motion
Yes.
that we
Thanks,
approve
Jennifer.
Aspire.
Are there any other questions? Can I get a motion?
I made a motion. Bruce
Yes,
made it.
Madam Chair, Hilda Parley proudly approves that we will approve their request to increase enrollment. I'm excited about this school. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any
You're
discussion?
welcome.
No, I'll just say that we're approving this on May 11th, and so by the time this hits state board, we're talking
April
many weeks from
April 11th.
Yeah, April 11th, yeah. So by the time it hits state board, I would just say that they'd be well served to make sure that that their projections of
Are going in the right direction.
Yeah,
are in
they-
the right direction.
yeah.
That they needed this
Right.
actual, not that they're not
Yeah, they've got,
sitting at 200.
Yeah.
Because then the state
Sounds
board
like they will.
reject that. So.
that's really true. All right.
Was there a second, Cheryl?
I'm sorry, Hilda.
Was there a second?
Yes,
Bruce.
Bruce was the
Bruce,
second.
okay.
Yes. Hearing no more discussion, would you please take the roll call?
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Enthusiastically approves.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Dave Machado,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
Stephen Gay.
Aye. Aye.
All right, Jennifer, we will keep you updated with State Board in the next 2 months.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all the support.
You're welcome.
Ashley, can we take a break?
Yes, we are gonna take a quick 5-minute break? Is that good?
Let's try 10.
Okay, 10-minute break. We'll be back here at 10:20. You know, it looks like, maybe it got cut off. I saw the first couple pages. I bet they forgot to say it. Maybe last year.
guessing. Those are his wife at the charter school. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. So I'm guessing he's still here.
Well,
He's not usually secretary of Tallahassee.
All right,
Not
guys,
like
ready?
you from here to Tallahassee.
Yep, we're on.
no.
It's hard to get there.
Is it really?
The connections are good.
Ready?
Okay, now we're gonna talk about RTO.
Good morning, board members. Dr. Natasha Norens from the Office of Charter Schools, sharing recent updates from Ready to Open Schools. You've heard of two already this morning during the amendments process, and I will be debriefing you on more of their updates as well. So currently, all schools slated to open this fall have successfully completed RTO 1. And RTO 2 items will be due on May 19th. And schools will appear to you at the CSAB June meeting for interviews. 7 out of 8 of the RTO schools are slated to open with a school leader currently. And the schools are also attending the Charter Leaders Institute June 7th and 8th after the June 6th CSAB meeting. 1 school is in the final stages of the 8 in offering a school leader position this week or next week.
Who is that?
I will talk more about that. That is Greenville Prep Academy. So our third enrollment report will be given to you in May at our next meeting without applications at that time. And you've heard the 2 amendments brought to you this morning with changes in enrollment today. The first school that I will present to you is Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. First and foremost, their anticipated day 1 for students is August 21st. This is a Mecklenburg County school opening with K through 10 grades. Their ADM approval was 1,525. Current applications are 1,925, which is 126% of the ADM. Their break-even number was 1,390. Bonnie Cone's update encompassed their developer, Schoolhouse Development, closed on the property for the school already, and the facility design is complete. All permits are in hand. Exterior walls, windows, roofing, and interior framing have been erected or installed for the elementary building. Drywall work, electrical conduits, plumbing, and exterior paint work continues. Exterior walls, windows, and roofing completed on their upper building, and the second floor has been poured and exterior paint work is done with window installations, HVAC ductwork, and electric conduits, as well as their plumbing placement continues. Site work continues with work on their retaining wall and sewer installation. And they are anticipating their ECO on June 30th. Any questions? Okay. The next school I'm presenting to you is Wayne STEM Academy. Their first day of opening is August 8th. Wayne STEM Academy will be located in Wayne County. Their year 1 grade levels are K through 5. Their approved year 1 ADM is 292. And according to their April application numbers, they're at 180 so far, as that equals 61% of their approved ADM. So they're headed in the right direction. And their break-even number is 234 students. Their facility update as of April 4th, they have secured their lease for their land. Their site plans are completed and approved, and they have secured their first learning cottage with 8 classrooms and bathrooms for each room. Those will be delivered and installed, completion date June 1st. They are investigating a second learning cottage for purchase, and they are reporting that they've contacted a vendor about a gently used learning cottage already being used for education in North Carolina with 10 classrooms and an office space. Any questions for Wayne staff? Moving
Natasha?
on, oh,
You can just kind of give us an overview of the facility?
you're good without having to read all of it?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That's our job to have read this before we go.
Perfect. Legacy Classical Academy is next. And their first day projected opening is August 17th with grades K through 4. They are under an EMO, American Traditional Academies, and their current ADM is 44% of approval of the original 201 with their break-even number 180. You'll see their facility updates there. They are, as noted, ready with their temporary or permanent facility with inspections to determine what work is needed, and this was as of April 4th. They are projected to receive their certificate of education and all of those dates all of those completions by May 12th. Next up, Mountain City Public Montessori School. Mountain City will be opening its doors to students August 15th. Their grade level is K6, and they are currently at 212%, surpassing the 75% approval, and their break-even number would have been 100. They are continuing with their plans to open in the church, and they are anticipating construction to happen mid-April on that church for all upgrades, with their ECO by July 1st. Next, you've heard this morning already from Movement School Northwest. Their anticipated first day of school, August 21st. They are opening as a K1 school, and you already know that they are requesting an amendment. Tim Hurley talked about all of the construction updates on the facility, and I think that's about it. They are still in the process of needing that extra equipment as noted. Next, we have Greenville Preparatory Academy, located in Pitt County, as a grade K through 5 school, and their first day of opening is July 17th. And their approval year 1 ADM was 400, and currently they're at 61% of the ADM goal of 75% with 244 applicants. Their break-even number being 360. I have a few notes to add about Greenville Prep. I've been in constant communication with Leaders Building Leaders, who is their support group, helping them through RTO. And the most recent update came on Friday with Tom Miller and Emily Moore during a phone call with them from Thursday, with substantial information coming via email as this update. So I have some notes that were not included in this slide, and they are that the school's architect is in communication with the fire marshal to ensure all emergency plans are valid and accepted. and they're in the final stages of hiring their head of school, with final interviews taking place on April 12th and the board meeting to discuss their decision on April 13th at 3 p.m. And they're hoping to have solidified their head of school by April 14th. Any questions? We can come back to questions if you'd like
I'm
after
quite
the next.
concerned about this one. They're opening in July, and they're at 61%
Correct.
right now without a head of school.
Correct.
That seems very perilous.
Well, and the facility update's a little shaky at this point too.
I would agree.
And this is April and July will be here before we know it.
Correct.
And I'm going to say this from experience, having had a hand in a school that opened there years ago that failed. One of the real challenges was the school leader not being connected to the community. This seems like a repeat of that, possibly.
I voiced all of these concerns in the past 2 weeks. Actually, I voiced them previously about 2 months ago, even as far back as January, with wondering about the facility and the exact address. And that was received last week, and that is going to occur at Emmanuel Baptist Church, 5.7 miles down the road from their slated permanent facility on Highway 43. So that's one area I've addressed with them. They are confident that their facility will be ready. They've stated their temporary facility, as this church has been a previous middle school, and that it did have a certificate of occupancy, and they're waiting on that to turn over to them for evidence of that, as well as I've also shared that your probable concerns could be not having a head of school ahead of today's date. And Mr. Miller from Leaders Building Leaders shared he understands that he would have had this school leader in place 2 months ago, and for whatever reason, it is still in process.
So, I guess our questions are, and hopefully they're listening in today, because we're asking questions and sharing concerns, not to put you on the spot.
Oh, I know.
You're the messenger, but it's not Mr. Miller's job to hire the head of school, is it? I think it's the board's job to hire the head of school.
That was my question. Why is all your conversation with Leaders Building Leaders?
Right, I agree.
Oh, that's Hilda.
I had the same exact questions, and Ashley has been a part of the conversation from the beginning. I have received only communication until Thursday of last week from Emily Moore, who is on their team. And when I invited them to join in on a call, because there were several emails back and forth over the course of 3 days, Mr. Miller joined the call at that time. This was Thursday of last week at 10 a.m. I have also CC'd their board chair, George Agaro, along with their Bernadette Yarborough, who is one of their hired staff currently.
And we was wondering what they do.
And the only communication I am receiving is mostly from Emily Moore, with some insights from Mr. Miller.
Emily Moore works for Leaders Building Leaders?
Correct.
And Bernadette Yarborough is, if the website is accurate, is both on the board and an employee of the school?
I have been told she is currently a staff member.
She's listed on the website as a board member.
Yeah.
And in her bio, as a board member, she says she's an employee of the school.
Correct.
Wow.
Well, I can't be.
Can't be both.
Do we have any idea how many teachers they've hired so far?
Can't be both.
They have not hired any
So-
other
No,
You haven't hired any?
Wow. So
by July 17th, they gotta hire a head of school, hire the teachers, and build the master schedule and.
Build the school.
And they're at
And get the school.
60% enrollment. Can we not have them come in May and give
Yeah, we need
I don't-
that.
Sure. And Ashley and I actually have a
Yes, we
meeting,
do.
and we've requested a virtual meeting with the board chair and other board members, along with Mr. Miller and Emily Moore for this Thursday. So we're doing our due diligence for you as the best we can. There is a time difference with the board chair, and he is
That's the
depending
guy
on
who lives out west someplace.
California, I think.
That's their issue. That's not
Yeah.
our issue.
Yeah, they,
Oh, yeah.
we need to have them come in May. I don't think we can wait till June. They're
Yeah.
supposed to, if they'd be ready
Right.
to open, they're supposedly open within a month of the time we would meet.
That is correct.
Yeah,
And
time is up.
as a side note to that, there are currently 244 kids waiting for that school. So,
Yeah, we can't wait until June and find out you're not at 75%.
Or your facility's not gonna be ready.
And in, as a reminder, in May, you will make, like preliminary recommendations, because that's the only way to get it to go to state board for 2 months in June and July. So any schools that we have major concerns with, such as Greenville Prep, could definitely come, and we'll have them come, in May.
So they're planning to open within a matter of days of supposedly getting the state board's approval.
Correct.
What if they didn't get it?
I mean, usually we're at a place where, that everything's pretty firmed up by then, or at least that's what we would hope. And I feel like also most schools that don't get approved, it's pretty obvious that they're not going to get approved because they're far behind, and they usually just, will delay, or like last year, I think we had Revitalize, I think it was, that just withdrew at the very end because they were not prepared and they were accelerated. So we definitely have time to make those.
I mean, I'm
decisions.
kind of shocked that they haven't already written for an approval, to ask for approval to delay.
it
Yes.
has been recommended. I
Yeah.
did recommend this last week. I told them it was a really great option for anyone in this current situation. I have, after that recommendation, there was 2 other emails and a phone call, and there was no
We're
mention
gonna plow ahead.
by the other support group, Leaders Building Leaders team, that they would take us up on that.
Well,
Who's attending RTO for them?
Say it again.
Who would
Emily
attend?
Moore.
so Leaders
Emily
Building
Moore.
Leaders is attending RTL for that school?
No,
They've been represented. Jenna knows more because she started the year out with RTO. Do you remember who attended in September, October, November?
Yes, so I believe almost their full board,
Yeah.
including Mr. Ogaro, who is flying in from California, has been present at the board meeting, or at all RTO meetings
Perfect.
starting in
Okay,
the
so
fall.
they are
They've
coming
had
up.
at least, I believe, at
Yeah.
least 4 board members, if not 5, at every
Okay,
RTO
so the
session.
board is,
Okay.
okay, so it's
Yeah.
not just they've contracted out to Leaders Building Leaders and then they went away. They are participating.
Yes.
Involved, okay.
Yeah,
This
they,
is the school that was, gonna.
That's good to
build
hear.
On that
With that
retirement
yes, this is
one-day
it.
campus, so is
That's-
that still happening?
Intergenerational facility is still their plan. That is
But
what
not
is.
for this year.
No, no. I don't know about anything else except the school, and that plan. But the permanent plan for the school to open, there is currently no building there.
I don't,
Mm.
I mean, if we were making recommendations today, I think it'd be pretty obvious that they're not ready.
Not for July.
Not for
No.
this year.
Not for July 2023.
I almost, for
I
the
am-
sake of
I-
for the sake of the families who are waiting for them, for all these pieces of the puzzle to come together.
I did send them the link to watch CSAP today. So we'll see how they're. I can definitely ask them to come in May, and we'll talk to
I'm
them.
wondering if May's too late.
May's late for a July open. They might want to really consider an August open.
Okay.
and they could do that. They could push back their,
Yeah.
they could vote to push back their calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, you're 61% towards your ADM. You don't have a building yet.
You don't have a head of school.
You don't have a school leader for at least 2 more days. That's a lot to be ready to open by mid-July. I don't even know why they picked mid-July. Are they planning to be a year-round school? I don't.
Correct. They plan to have a year-round calendar with 2-week breaks sprinkled every quarter or trimester.
And that's fine if that's the calendar they want, but I don't see them ready to open by July. I think it would take a miracle for them to be open in July.
Yeah.
Let's see where they are in May.
Thank you.
So
And
we're asking them to come in May. is that
Right.
Okay.
we'll do, and we'll inform that to them if they're not listening on Thursday when we meet with them. Just checking where I am. Okay, so next up is Aspire Trade High School. We just heard from them. Wonderful things are occurring. Their first day of opening is August 23rd, and they're opening with 9th and 10th grade. As you know, the ADM is changing. Their break-even number was originally 205, and they're slated to have their COO, ECO on July 31st, and that's about it for that.
Well, I drive by there. I have to drive by there to go to church every week. That building is happening.
Yeah, yeah.
It is most assuredly happening.
I can't wait to visit.
The interior plans are very cool, like in terms of the different like industries that are going to be in there, and it should be really good if everything continues smoothly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And lastly, for the schools that are planning to open, we have School of the Arts for Boys Academy, SABA for short. Their first day for students is also August 14th. Their approved ADM was 154, and currently they're at 24% of their approved ADM. So I have been in constant communication with Miss Valencia Toomer. We've had several meetings. We've discussed these numbers and her marketing plan as well as her facility. She does not want to currently make the facility address public, but that they confirmed a lease for a facility in the heart of Chatham County, Pitt County.
No, it's Chatham County.
Chatham County. Thank you. Sorry. Please, I'll update that. And at this time, she actually just called me before this meeting today to talk about another issue. She wants to share with you that she is doing the best she can. They've had a spring break camp for prospective families that was very successful, and she is still planning to open, but she believes until she can give the confirmed date to prospective families that enrollment is going to stay at this number.
I want to make sure I heard this correct. They're going to open in August.
Yes,
It is April 11th,
correct.
but they don't want to tell the parents where the school is going to be.
That is her current stance.
When does she think she might want to share that information with parents?
So the facility where she has chosen to lease is a daycare, and that daycare at some point needs to give that information to the current clientele.
Oh, they're vacating the property and
This
the
is what we've
schools-
been told.
But
Yes.
that might explain why you're only 24%
enrolled.
enrolled.
And this is the third year these.
You're asking parents.
That's what I was just getting ready to say.
I mean, this is the third year they've been asking for.
They were an accelerated school
Right,
There-
that's true.
their first year, and then they requested a delay.
Right.
And so if they were to request a delay, which we have discussed with her, they would need to actually go up to state board to request that.
They also this has always been about where's the facility. If you
I
remember
know.
when they originally in the accelerated process, they told us they had this facility. It was this wonderful facility. The location was perfect and all that. And then the next thing we heard is they were moving. That they were gonna, because that facility wasn't gonna become available or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but the new facility was someplace else that was too far for the kids they'd already enrolled, and that became an issue. And now we're on a third facility that we can't tell anybody where it is.
I think, they also just have the inevitable, difficulty of, it's a school for boys, so half of your demographic is
It's already gone.
not, your enrollment pool is much smaller, and it's a specialized school for arts. So it really, you have to have very specific demographics that want that.
The trade school that we looked at earlier, they're 75% male.
Right.
When I've spoken to charter school of the arts, they have a problem recruiting boys. They
Right.
tend to be overwhelmingly girls. They couldn't have picked a tougher demographic
Right.
to enroll a school.
And they want to target low income. So we're talking low income boys.
I think we need to have them come in May as well.
We
I
have
mean,
them on the
this
list,
is-
yeah.
Yeah.
The 24%, and you don't even know where you're not even willing to share where your school is at.
Well, 24%, and you've been recruiting for almost 3
It's
years.
But you keep changing where you are, keep changing your location.
This is a great example of great mission, really nice people, but unable to execute.
Yeah. Now, Peake County, is that correct?
No, it's Chatham County.
I
Sorry
thought
for
so.
that error.
Okay.
Chatham County. Lastly, we have the schools who have requested to open next fall, not this coming fall, but the fall of 2024. And those schools will restart the RTO process again this September 2023. And those are Nalanda Academy, Go Big, Great Opportunities, and Boundless Innovations for Girls, as well as North Oak, West Triangle, Honor Prep, and Dogwood Classical Academy.
Many of these people promised us they were ready to go.
Don't they have to come back before us with permission for?
Not for first year delay.
Not for a first year. We can grant the first year delays. If anything else would be a second year would have to go.
Are all of these facility delays?
Well, mostly, yes. Nalanda is a facility having a hard time finding. Dogwood, we heard, did they
It's
present?
facility too,
It's
yeah.
facility.
Yeah, I think
Honor
they're all-
Prep, yeah. And we know about West Triangle High, as well as North Oak is having similar facility issues, and then Go Big.
And North Oak and Dogwood were actually able to, they were the first schools that were able to take advantage of that legislation that allowed an automatic tolling of the charter or a delay for a zoning dispute or some type of land use matter. So those schools will be unique in that they will be able to start with a full 5-year charter as opposed to the other delayed schools.
And does Dogwood does not have to go to state board because of what you just described?
Correct.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We're seeing a lot of delays, and they're all about facility, but we're seeing a lot.
So, and also to add to this that I wanted to bring up to you is actually Ashley Baccaro and myself created a contingency plan that we hope will support RTO schools prior to later into the year. So that's going out to schools like Saba and Greenville for them to see what we would need going forward, of course, with your approval, sometime this week.
For the facility. So show them this is exactly what needs to take place for a facility, and these are possible, contingency plans you could have, a second facility, pushing back the calendar, things like that, just to make it more clear to schools.
Were any of these schools that are requesting or going to have the delay accelerated?
No, we had the 2 accelerated. I am a little concerned about Legacy. They will probably come in May unless we get an increased enrollment because they're currently at 44%. So I'm not really concerned about the facility as much as just enrollment.
Wasn't Legacy an accelerated?
Yes, they're the accelerated in
Mountain
City.
Mountain City Montessori.
But they're the highest, I think, with
Yeah.
enrollment, right? They're like 200 and something percent.
They're doing
Isn't
great.
that the one where they closed the Montessori school and the district is letting them even have the store? I guess they bought it
Yeah.
at the school that they were in.
No,
No.
they're actually moving to a church.
They are.
But they had that plan all along.
Their enrollment numbers are very impressive.
Yeah, they're doing good.
Now, Legacy, that's the one that state board took a little while to approve, kept coming back. Will they fall in the same category that Saba did, even though they're accelerated and they shouldn't get an extension?
They're very confident with their enrollment at this time. They really think once they have a momentum that every time I reach out to them, quickly email, they're very responsive, stating thanks for asking. Here's the update today, and it's growing by 5 students approximately every time I reach out to them.
I know I'm probably not saying anything that people haven't already thought of, but these new schools, as someone that's going through this right now of just opening a new facility, you better watch your budgets with regard to rising interest rates and how much you think you're going to be paying, and you better be sure that whoever's going to be doing your construction is a company that can access the needed materials, because smaller companies, bigger companies, and their ability to access air conditioning units, steel, those are real concerns as you're making plans for either opening a new school or getting ready to get in construction, because it's just it's a hard market right now.
And I did want to say Greenville Prep's board chair has mentioned all of this in his communication with me, that it's been a hard year for them to plan for this.
I guess I just have a question. This may be more of a philosophical question. On the accelerateds, you've purposely chosen that track to get approval on that timeline. Facility is, they don't even grant you if you don't have it.
You don't have, so
Oh,
why are
you
they
got it.
all
So,
freaked
like,
out now?
Should accelerateds even have the opportunity? Should they even have the opportunity for a year extension?
You
Well,
guys
they don't.
usually-
They don't.
They don't.
That's
No.
right.
Saba was
So
a
you gotta
very
make it and
strange
break it, yeah.
case because they went very late in the process because we had to do a lot of kind of legal behind the scenes stuff for the single gender question. And so that was a very unique, like, one-off situation where they got moved from accelerated timeline to standard. But usually you guys have been very clear, you're accelerated, you're approved as accelerated. If you don't open
You'll
your
open or
doors,
you'll
then
go back through the cycle.
you have to go back to
the
Yeah,
process.
go back
Yeah.
again. Yeah, the other thing is, we respond really well to boards and school leaders who are highly passionate, present really well. We may need to be more data-driven, because I'm looking at some of these schools that we felt like the board was really strong, and now they're at very low enrollment, and or they've asked for a delay, and I think that as a board we need to look at maybe not being as driven by the presentation as we are by the data, because I think the concerns that we had are now showing up in here. So I just think as a board we might want to think about that.
absolutely.
What's the situation with Go Big?
From what I understand, they had possibly a personal situation. I actually wasn't involved. That happened. Do you know?
I think it's also facility. I think they have a couple. Like,
Okay.
They just were not prepared, but they also, I think, haven't found a facility.
Well, I will tell you that living in that market, I haven't heard one word about Go Big. And and you would think that because again they're focusing on girls,
Right, you're going to have to be very strategic.
so you would think that they would be advertising, or that there would be something, and I've not heard one word about Go Big, none. I have heard people talk about Honor Prep, so I know that in the community there are people aware that Honor Prep is coming. not a word about Go Big.
I do have to say, Crystal Pemberton does attend the open office hours that I provide bi-weekly. She has been attending those. And once they, as you know, doing this far longer than I have, once they hit the delay, there's usually a drop-off in communication from them. So, to me, anyway. But they start back up, and I've been sending emails to RTO 2324 already, just thanking them for their waiting period and sending them the link to today's CSAB for them to watch so they can prepare for what's coming to them. Along with, they have a website that I created for them. So hopefully some changes will happen with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent report.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna suggest maybe that I can do the annual report and the updates at the end of the meeting, since we do have a lot of folks here for the Charter Schools USA item, if that works
That's
for you
fine.
guys. Okay. Jenny?
Okay, so, are we no, Jenna's gonna present, that's how we're gonna start, okay.
All right. Good morning, Jenna Cook with the Office of Charter Schools. So today we have brought back to you all 3 schools. These 3 schools were initially brought to the state board in March. After that meeting, it became apparent that there were some unresolved compliance issues that needed to be discussed before the final vote on their renewal term. Today, you all will review the issues and then vote to either amend or uphold your original votes on their renewal terms. All 3 of these schools are partnered with the same EMO, Charter Schools USA. We have representatives with us from DPI as well as Charter Schools USA so that you all can ask any questions. So I will be presenting each school and we will be discussing each school separately and then you all will vote on them separately, mostly because the issues are not necessarily the same for all 3 schools, and so we wanted to discuss each school individually. The first school that we will discuss is Langtree Charter Academy. This is their comparability vote. They were originally, or you all were originally presented their information at the November meeting. They did not present to you all as they qualified for the statutory 10-year renewal and had no known compliance issues at the time of the presentation in November. The vote for this school was pushed to February due to a delay in receiving their audit. And then in February, school business did have that audit and stated that there were no issues noted. And then CSAB voted in February for a 10-year recommendation for Langtree. As far as the compliance issues that we are aware of, there was some EC compliance. Their IDEA maintenance of effort expenditure submission was likely inaccurate. They entered in a $1 more than the previous year, which EC has told us is pretty unlikely that that was accurate. You were also presented with the information that EC met with CSUSA leadership on January 30th. So what was in blue is what information you all were presented with in February. As of right now, we know that their MOE verification is currently on hold. So they have submitted updated documentation, but EC is currently holding on reviewing that as there are 3 other schools that are under site review. And I also have Dr. Karen Hudgens from EC here to answer any questions if you all have questions for her. And then here's their data.
Okay, we probably need to hear from Dr. Hudgens.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you some EC concerns. Fiscally, we did hold off on the MOE verification because we are engaged with 3 other sites on an on-site review, and the patterns of concern seem to be consistent among the schools. Once we have a fiscal desk side audit, which is what we did with Langtree, we did a fiscal desktop. And once they were unable to have their maintenance of effort resolved through that process, the next step would be an on-site review. And because we were already doing an on-site review with 3 other schools under this umbrella that had some significant concerns, we waited until we could start resolving those other concerns before we pursued them with Langtree. Part of the reason for that is that in submitting documentation to resolve those fiscal concerns, we did not have a crosswalk between the budget codes and the EC chart of accounts. So this starts making things difficult to reconcile those expenditures with the budget. And so the payroll documentation for some of the schools indicated that staff were associated with time and effort for multiple schools. And so there was a pattern of fiscal documentation that seemed to be persistent through all of the schools, and even through the documentation that was provided, we still could not resolve those fiscal concerns.
As of today, they are not yet resolved?
That is correct.
And with Langtree, is it only maintenance of effort?
It is, we held on the maintenance of effort issues because we need to go ahead and go into a site visit, which goes further into the fiscal process. Because of the pattern with the site visits on the sister schools under the same umbrella, we're trying to get those resolved because we think that will help us be better able to understand their accounting practices for the other schools.
Are the other schools that you're looking at, which is the reason why this MOU is on hold, are any of those other schools also the schools that are before us today?
Yes, one of them is Westlake.
Today?
Yes, sir.
What's the time frame from your perspective, what's the time frame of having that work done?
So we've been engaged with them for quite some while, them being collectively the Charter USA schools. So I'll go to the one that we've been engaged with probably the longest, which is Westlake, and which is up for discussion today. We started our 21-22 fiscal desk audit by announcing our desk audit activity in January of 22. And we notified them that the artifacts that would be necessary to conduct that desktop audit would need to be submitted by February 4th of 22. We had not received them by February 9th, and so we notified them that we needed to have those documents provided, and they did provide those at the end of the business day on February 9th. We reviewed them in March. And at that time and effort, maintenance of fiscal effort, still had not passed the audit at that time. So in May of 22, we notified Westlake that their requirements had not been met after multiple requests for documentation, and that we had needed them by April 18th, and we had not received them, or what had been received did not meet the requirements. As a result of that, we had to notify them that because of failing the desk audit, we would have to do an on-site fiscal review. And we provided that notification in December of 22 and confirmed the dates for that on December 8th of 22, which occurred January 25th of 23. And so on February the 2nd of 23, we notified them that the requirements were not met. They had corrective actions that were due on March the 2nd of 23. By March the 13th of 23, we notified them that their notification of ongoing non-compliance. And that was the letter that kind of escalated our concerns to the Office of Charter Schools, Schools of Business, that despite our best efforts in working collaboratively with them, we still had items that could not be resolved. And Ashley has put on the screen for you a summary. We provided a summary document for review for today for your board and provided that document as well to Charter School USA last week. And over the weekend, they provided a number of documents for the 3 schools that were to be discussed today. So what we did, they provided that on Sunday. So I had staff look at those documents yesterday, and to the best of our ability, we've provided an update to that for today. And so, Ashley, if you don't mind scrolling down, I included a section of ongoing concerns that just itemizes some examples of ongoing fiscal issues around payroll spreadsheets, et cetera. Essentially what that does for you is it outlines that we need the actual artifacts in addition to the spreadsheets that support expenditures that are matching what the budget says that they were intended to be used for. And so based on the documentation that was provided on Sunday and that staff reviewed yesterday, we did find that capitalized equipment was purchased out of federal funds, but not in the 2021 IDEA grant. So there are still some disconnects between what was spent and what was itemized or said it would be spent for in the grant. The linked budget codes are what we also refer to as chart of accounts, and they have been added to the general ledger, but we still can't verify that that information is from an authoritative source. So again, difficulty matching up the budget with expenditures. We can't track the funding to determine the total amount they were provided and have spent, and their crosswalk is not in alignment. There's just a screenshot there. Ashley, I think you may have need to either scroll down a little. No, if you'll go a little further, please. Right there. And we still cannot validate MOE, and we cannot verify payroll expenditures. And so we have more specific information for you for Westlake, which is before you today because of the on-site visit. I think this probably also illustrates why we held on going further with the on-site visits for Langtree and Cabarrus, because if their accounting practices are similar across all of their schools, it would seem that our time is better spent understanding and unraveling the 3 on-site visits that we did conduct so that it would be clearer and more easily a pathway forward with our other schools.
Okay, well, we're specifically talking about Langtree right now.
Okay.
So I guess I see the issues and that they appear to be all accounting type issues. So are you saying that that's Langtree has you anticipate that Langtree will have some of the same issues because of the same accounting process?
Yes.
But you haven't actually been to Langtree to confirm that that's the issue.
We've done the desktop audit, which has given us our initial information that the artifacts provided through that process indicates that there is difficulty with maintenance of effort, which is the reconciliation of the expenses and the budget. And so we do have documentation and evidence that that is a problem. When we do have that, we do go further, which is the site visit. And you are correct, we have not done the site visit.
Okay, one of the things you said is that you can't verify the personnel costs that are submitted in the budget. That you don't have what are you looking for besides the fact they paid these people?
So some artifacts that we would be looking for are contracts. We would look for the budget codes. We would look for if they're paid with federal funds, state funds. We would look for what their job assignments would be. There's a couple of different ways that we would look at a variety of pieces of information to see that they are doing what they were paid to do and were budgeted to do.
In your opinion, has Charter Schools USA been responding to your requests in a way that will get them where they need to be with this? It's a process, I realize that, but do you anticipate that their response has been such that they will get there?
I think one thing that I would offer and that I've provided for the board to consider is our communication workbook, which documents the emails and the different opportunities that we have taken to meet with their leadership team to go through what has been missing or what is needed to clarify
Is that mostly because the accounting systems don't match, so the codes don't match?
It is a contributing factor, but the other factor is the artifacts that are needed in addition to the spreadsheets.
Such as?
Contracts.
Receipts, contracts, invoices, etc.
So are you saying they've not submitted those artifacts, or what they've submitted you haven't felt satisfactory to meet what you're looking for?
Pieces of some things, but not everything we need for everything.
All right, thank you so much. We probably will have more questions as this goes on. All right, Jenna, so I guess we need to hear from Charter Schools USA.
So they have folks from their national team as well as their North Carolina team, and then we do have some board members as well on the line if you'd like to ask board members any questions.
Question is this in 1 year? Is this the first time this has happened? Did they have a change in personnel, or?
Good morning, Chair Turner. Good morning, CSAP, Director Becerra, OCS staff, and Ms. Schaefer. Claire Porter with Charter Schools USA, North Carolina School Support. And we do have several members of our state and national team, as well as some folks online. I'd like to introduce Ms. Kaylee Easton, who is our North Carolina Special Programs Director. She oversees EC. I'd also like to introduce Ms. Myrna Lane Epolit. She is our Senior Vice President of Finance and Accounting. Did I get that right? All right. Moving on, we have Ms. Nadia Butler. She's our Assistant Controller for Charter Schools USA. And last but not least, Ms. Misty Neerdito, I've got it, Director of Grants for Charter Schools USA. On the line with us, we also have Mr. Martin Conway, who is our Board Chair for NCCEF. And I believe we also have Jessica Rainstein for Westlake Preparatory Academies Board. Thank you for being here, Dr. Hudgens, as well. We appreciate the opportunity to continue the dialogue. What we first want to do is loop back to the fact that on our agenda today, we have only our 3 renewal schools. So we would request that the conversation be restricted to what is actually on the agenda. I'm glad that we were able to point out the lengthy collaborative work that our team has done at the national and state level with DPI EC Division. We've had at least 3 in-person meetings. We've had emails back and forth. So there hasn't been a lack of effort to get the product in a manner in which it's usable for both parties to DPI. I will say it's been a lengthy effort. It was in existence before I came on board in October. What seems to be the crux of the matter is this crosswalk, which has been requested and supplied. Today, we're learning with this slide that what we provided is not sufficient. We've actually had an invitation from Ms. Shirley McFadden received this morning for an ongoing conversation about our accounting practices. And so it sounds to me that what, again, has been provided is insufficient, and we will work to remedy that with the EC Division. I will say that the manner in which the materials were provided, I believe they were originally provided in an Excel spreadsheet, and those folks who were here in person and on the line were told, I believe it was a February original meeting, and then followed by a March meeting, that would be sufficient. We were then asked to produce the same materials in a PDF format because some of the data in those cells would not be readable. Recently, we were asked for the crosswalk, and we did provide the crosswalk, again being told today that the crosswalk is insufficient. I would respectfully direct the CSAB back to the statute, the general statute on the request for the review and renewals of charters. The specific language is that the charter school is not at the time of request for renewal of the charter substantially in compliance with state law, federal law, the school's own bylaws, or the provisions set forth in its charter granted by the State Board of Education. We do see that we have ongoing issues for these 3 schools and the maintenance of effort across all of our 9 schools. However, I would submit to you that that does not rise to the level of substantial noncompliance. We have many schools going forward with renewals, and some of those schools have issues that they are remedying. So I would again have us focus on the fact that these schools do
in the background of the system, it attaches the link code, but there is no report from the system that generates a link code. So we had a legacy system and transitioned our North Carolina schools to a new Oracle-based system, which is NetSuite, as of October 2022. In this new system, we now have all of the link codes, so you can generate a report with link codes. So going forward, we shouldn't have that issue. The crosswalk that we provided does show the GL accounts and the corresponding link codes. And that's pulled directly from our system, but we had to put it in a PDF format in order to show that. So that's what we're able to provide, but going forward, in 2023, we should be able to provide reports with the actual link codes.
Questions?
Do you contract with someone for your finances, or are they managed internally?
They're managed internally.
It sounds to me like part of the problem here is just not being tied to North Carolina and the way North Carolina does things. And it might really be in your best interest to go along with the program. You gotta have crosswalks, you gotta have stuff in the background, you gotta, like, that's a lot. Like, wouldn't it just be easier to do North Carolina?
Yes, and that's what we've decided to do when we moved to the new system, which we were able to shift all the schools in October, so now we're definitely speaking North Carolina speak.
I just think that it's gonna make your life a lot easier.
Yes, I agree 100%.
Would you, it was mentioned that there were some, I guess, from DPI's standpoint, documents that were missing or unsatisfactory. Maybe I'm wording that incorrectly, but things like job descriptions, and receipts. I mean, is all, from your perspective, that has been provided?
I believe, I would defer to Clinton, that we did provide a lot of the backup documentation for that.
Specifically regarding the HR processes and what it sounded like was being requested on this day is that there's additionally, we have contracts for our related service providers, but one thing that hasn't been provided up until this point, because I don't believe that we felt it was requested up to this point, were like offer letters that would have been provided to the individual staff members. We have, I think, one component that has stretched us out a little bit farther is we have sought out clarity and collaboration a lot of times and received feedback that something would potentially be sufficient, and shortly after find out that there's another component that we need. So we're working really hard with DPI to make sure that we have a very full and comprehensive understanding of all of the components that are needed within our systems and processes, so that moving forward, we're able to more succinctly provide the items that meet their needs. So there was one item specifically related to HR that I did hear that hasn't been provided up to this point, but today was also the first indication that I've had that that's been requested. The other items regarding the finances for payroll, the individual staff names tied to each school has been provided up to this point, as well as semi-annual certifications, which is something that's signed by each individual staff member, verifying that they spent 100% of their time in DC, and licensure has also been provided.
It sounds like some of your EC staff work at multiple schools. Are you keeping track of the time and effort based on the school?
I think where the confusion came from with that was the original payroll documentation that was shared was not separated out by each individual school, so it listed them in their entirety. We've since indicated through our notes that we wanted that component or that evidence withdrawn and then resubmitted in a way that was parsed out a little bit better.
Okay,
So that way
time and effort, I think it's called a PAR report, is that what it's called? The time and effort thing, when they talk about the backup, when they're saying they don't have the backup, we've got the personnel, we've got that you spend it on salaries, but we don't have the backup. Those time and effort reports are one of the ways that you can provide backup, particularly when you're talking about staff, because you don't get receipts, and so keeping, particularly for your school people who are moving across schools, it gets very. I mean, even within your building, it becomes a big deal if they're doing more than one thing. So if they're doing it more than one thing and doing it in a lot of places, that's hard to document if you don't have those kinds of reports backup. And truthfully, probably nobody will ask for them until the next time they come for the audit. I mean, that's really real. Like, you keep this stuff and nobody ever asks for it. But when it's time for the audit, you got to be able to produce it.
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that I have had throughout this process is that we really do genuinely appreciate all of the collaborative effort that we're receiving from DPI, because I'm viewing this as a growth opportunity, so we can make sure we have these processes in place moving forward. Dr. Hudgens mentioned how long this process sort of has been, and one of the earlier barriers was the semi-annual certifications, and so we were able to put into place across our entire network a specific date and time in which twice a year the expectation was that our EC staff was completing those semi-annual certifications and verifying their time and effort within the EC department.
Okay, thank you. So this is time for us to discuss, or if you have any other questions, there's opportunity to ask more questions. I think from my point of view, it really is what is substantially in compliance. What's that mean? And I think that, because I think that really is the crux of what we have to decide. If they are substantially compliant, then what we've already sent to the state board is fine. We have the option to send it with stipulations, send it back with stipulations, or change it. And I think, to me, the question becomes, what is substantially compliant?
I'm wrestling with, maybe I'm just not understanding fully why the back and forth, and there's not just what's expected right up front, and are you giving that to them or not, right? Because it sounds like it's like we gave them something, well, that's not enough. Then we gave them something, then, well, that's not enough. Am I missing that, or?
Well, my experience, and my experience was not with EC, it was with federal programs, with the ESSER grants. They asked us for things and we gave them things, but we thought we gave them what they asked for, but it wasn't what they asked for, or wasn't everything they asked for. Ultimately, federal programs came to our school and helped us get through that. But,
is that what's going on right now?
Well, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like they're responding, but the stuff that they have, or the stuff that they're submitting, isn't exactly what EC's looking for. And EC, this is federal, and it's got to be right. And
I guess what I was getting at is, if we know we're talking about these 3 schools today, but if it's a network issue too, is to sit down with EC with all these people and say, let's go through it right now on site and let's get what's needed. Because it sounds to me like it's going through email or phone calls.
I think they said they've had 3 meetings, and it sounds to me like that is what they're doing. Like what exactly, so that their systems in the future match what's needed.
And a question I have is, again, it goes back to how long does each party think it will take to?
That's it.
Yeah,
to rectify, to clear this.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't get that. I asked that question, but it was a little vague on how long it was going to take.
Are we talking
2
days, weeks, months?
Seems like there should be a deadline to submit whatever is needed.
And clarity on
Upfront. I know that may vary, but needs to be some specific timelines.
Hello, I'm Nadia Butler, the Assistant Controller for Charter Schools District, and we are willing and ready to meet any deadline if you request one. I know the meeting with Shirley on Friday will probably be very clarifying. The biggest concern that I've seen is the terminology being
for expenditure reports. Everybody went back and forth asking, what are they talking about expenditure reports? We give GL details, that's the general ledger details, that's pretty much all encompassing for accounting. We give a trial balance, we give the Excel version that showed the crosswalk with the link, and they kept getting pushed back and it wasn't sufficient. And at that point, accountants start to get a little bit uncomfortable because these are what we have in the system. I'm trying to get everything and not getting the clarity of why it's not good enough. Excel, understood. Can't be editable. We wanted it solid PDF, so we give you that. So I think it's just a matter of, if you ask us for something and keep us in mind of what the end goal of what you're reviewing is, maybe we can be more forthcoming in helping produce that. If you say, like you had said, time and effort shows receipts for employees, that I understand 100% because I don't have a way of showing an invoice for an employee's payroll. So things like that help us get a better understanding of how to provide it quicker. The schools are managed by 9 individual accountants, so I was the one kind of getting them on board with the communication between the meetings because they weren't in the DPI meetings. And then I just took charge and started doing it all myself to try to get things moving. And it did start to get done faster that way. So I think it's just a matter of clarifying
That's what I was getting at.
and giving people exactly what they need to get done, and so they can get it back to you as quick as possible.
Why is this issue popping up now? They've had schools renewed before.
Yeah, that's what I asked Cheryl.
I'll ask the question. So I'm really trying to understand both perspectives here. And I do want to keep this conversation about these 3 schools. I'm not trying to get away from that. But I do have the question, these are not the first time schools that Charter Schools USA manages in North Carolina have been up for renewal.
Yes.
Why is this problem, you've been using the same systems, and presumably EC and DPI have been requesting the same things. Why is this percolated up now versus
2 years ago?
2 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when another Charter Schools USA school would have been up for renewal?
I think it was the Excel files. I think the Excel files threw everyone for a loop when they were first submitted, because in the past, I believe it was always Excel accompanied with the PDFs. For sure, validation, just to show, this is what's in the account balance, here's the PDF out of the system. I believe the first submission was only the Excel version, and we missed the mark on getting the PDFs with them, and then when everybody said expenditure reports, I don't know why that just threw everyone for a loop and not understanding that that was a general ledger detail report. We were literally looking for like expenditure reports, thinking they wanted something payroll related, something outside of what we have access to. So I think that was really the crux of it. But in the past, because I've been with charter schools, this is going on my 7th year, I've been a part of these in the past. I've been CABA's accountant for many years, so I have provided these documents with no issue in the past. This is why I think all the confusion came about, because we did as we always have done, and then we got pushback in ways that we hadn't heard before. So then we have to try to get creative and think outside the box, what could they possibly be wanting that we haven't provided already or haven't provided in the past. So as soon as we provided the GL details in PDF, we thought that would be it. That you're seeing your proof, this is evidence, this has not been manipulated. But the fact that the link code is not on those PDFs raised concern and asked for the crosswalk. Now, I did see the screen when the crosswalk notes were up there, and it just seems like they're questioning certain pieces of the crosswalk. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the entire crosswalk is inaccurate or no good. That literally was an export from the system. It's not manipulated, it's not edited. But you can only see the link code in Excel. So if I even brought my laptop to demonstrate if you guys wanted to see, it literally is just not PDF-able.
So may I ask that same question? So thank you for your response to why you feel it's percolated up now when it didn't in the past. Dr. Hudgens, would you have any insights on like why wasn't this an issue in prior renewals?
So I
I guess, thank you for that. I'm still not understanding the answer to my question.
Okay.
These are the things you asked for, and this is this is what they provided, right? Are the things that you're asking for today the same things you would have asked the renewal schools 5 years ago, 3 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So why was it acceptable then, and not in what they provided you and how they provided it,
Or is it different?
and it's not acceptable now? What's the difference?
Well, I don't have in front of me what they provided us 5 years ago or the last time that we did a fiscal review. But clearly what was provided at that time met the requirement, and what is being provided now does not. I heard them say that they had changes in the system that they were using, and I don't know if that's what was contributing to it. But in our process, we could not find evidence that we asked for.
Thank you.
So it sounds to me like you're saying things like that you can't see that it came out of 060 on their payroll log, and you can't see it on the checks. Is that what you're saying?
That's what we notified them in the report, yes.
Okay, so in terms of how you fix that, the checks have already gone out. Like, how can they fix that?
So I need to go back and look at what our staff told them directly to do, or if in subsequent activities that they took, did they amend that in any subsequent activities that they took?
Okay.
Look at the next payroll.
Yeah. And, I honestly don't think any of this is like, gonna kill the world. Honestly, it's not misappropriation of funds. It's that the accounting systems don't match. I would highly recommend to Charter Schools USA that it is really in your best interest to go with what we do. That all of this is not worth what it would take to just change. But I guess, Dr. Hudgens, I guess that's what I'm asking you. Like, to me, I realized that things are not lined up the way they need to be, and there's documentation that has to be fixed. I get that. But I don't see EC kids aren't being served. I don't see money's not being spent on EC appropriately. What I see is your reporting mechanisms aren't good. And so if in fact, I guess what I'm asking you is, outside of the fact that this stuff doesn't line up and they have to fix it, the paperwork shuffle, is there some major reason we should be deeply concerned about them in EC?
So we share this information with you all to make your decision. What we will continue to do is work our process, and what that means is that we will continue to provide technical assistance and support them in resolving these issues, because their issues are ultimately our issues as a state. So that support doesn't stop regardless of the decision you make today, because we want to make this reconciled as well as, and as quickly and as fast as we can as
Thank you.
So my understanding though is in terms of the renewal period for the charter, there's a continuing process to constantly monitor the financial, for financial irregularities. So regardless of whether or not this school has a 10-year renewal period, that process will continue to be ongoing. And unless something rises to the level that it needs to come back to us because there are financial irregularities, this will all be handled administratively, and we won't need to see that again. Is that correct?
I think at least Langtree is a little more worried about Westlake, but. Just because the stuff's coming out of Florida.
Information came to your attention and you had to consider it in your decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hudgens. I appreciate the work that EC is doing. I appreciate the technical assistance. My experience with DPI and federal programs and EC and child nutrition has been that the goal is to get it right. And it's not punitive. The goal is just to get it right. And so that when the state comes, when the feds come and look at the whole state, we don't want issues. And I get it. So I appreciate the work that your team is doing, and appreciate the fact that you're willing to continue to work with Charter Schools USA to get this thing worked out.
I think it's fair to say too, recognizing that there have been some issues that we've had to deal with for the last couple of years. People are hypersensitive about making sure we dot our I's, cross our T's when it comes to this stuff. So until we get to that point, I mean, I think that's the work that needs to get done. And I'd appreciate any collaboration that could be face-to-face or whatever, to where folks can know right there then and now that I've done it or I haven't done it. Because I think email and that kind of communication, sometimes things get muddled. So I appreciate you guys are all just working together to try and get it done.
Yeah.
What he said.
No, I agree. I'm just sitting here and thinking, it just seems like this is really oversimplifying it. Like, come to my school, use my conference room.
Get her done.
I'll feed you coffee and donuts, and let's get it done.
I'll eat by lunch, right?
Yeah. I know that's an oversimplification.
It's the truth.
Okay, so we are doing this school by school, and so we need to make a decision about Langtree specifically.
Well, so clarifying, if we're not changing, if we don't feel there's a need to change what we've already voted on, we don't need to take any action.
No, we don't have to do anything because we pulled them, right? It wasn't that they got sent back. Didn't we pull them?
I would suggest just voting on whether you're going to just affirm your previous recommendation or change it, personally.
Okay.
Just to make it clear that you heard the new material.
That makes sense, Ashley.
So if we affirm, that doesn't, if we're simply affirming, if we take if we take an action, does that cause anybody else to feel like they need to take an action?
Well, regardless, this is going to State Board next month for their final determination. So I think an affirmation or a change, being very clear whether you're doing either of those, would make it clear for the State Board.
I have a feeling that if we didn't do something, it could be turned around and sent right back to us to discuss and affirm.
The other thing then I would suggest to Charter Schools USA is you really and truly want this stuff cleared up before it gets to the State Board. When you start getting into the ins and outs of how this works and what's required for documentation, and it just starts to sound like something bad must be going on. And so it's just in your best interest to
when is
have it
that
done.
meeting?
The 4th, May 4th, I believe.
So that's the question, I guess, for EC as well.
Dr. Hudgens.
Is this something that can be resolved by May 4th?
Well, we're committed to keep trying. I mean, they sent us a lot of things Sunday afternoon, and I had a staff of 3 drop everything to do that
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think the other dynamic to keep in mind, particularly for Charter Schools USA, is when this goes before the state board, unlike today, you have
can't
the
be there.
opportunity to have back and forth and clarify questions. You don't really get that opportunity at the state
Yeah.
board. So hopefully the state
That's
board
true.
members are listening today and hearing this back and forth that we're having with all parties.
But the best thing would be for Dr. Hudgens to be able to say it's been cleared up. That would be best thing.
Right. So true.
Thank you all. Charter Schools USA is committed to working with the EC division as we have been to make sure that this is rectified far in advance of state board in May.
So based on what, I don't know if you're ready for a motion or not.
Yeah, I am.
But based on what I'm hearing, it sounds to me like it's coding issues and different, not something that's been done nefariously that we would be concerned about. So that being said, knowing that they're going to try and get this resolved before the May 4th state board meeting, I make a motion that we continue to go forward with the 10-year renewal for Langtree.
Any other parlay seconds?
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
There's just the comment that something you said, Ms. Turner, which is, in all of this, the one thing that no one's accusing the other party of is not serving students well.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And I would also say that this is part of the process. I mean, when things come up, everybody's being open and clear about what we're doing to try and resolve it, as opposed to not being responsive or not trying to fix the issue or denying that there's an issue. So, I mean, this is a part of why the process works the way it does, so we can make sure that we're accurate.
Madam Chair, we're having discussion
Yes.
on the motion. I don't know if the budget code resolution also resolves the fact that the payroll expenditures exceeded the allotted amounts. It could have been determined that that's just because they were in the wrong line items or the wrong budget codes, but I've never really heard that resolution.
I don't think it's been resolved yet, because part of the issue is that the people who are paid out of the federal program, it needs to be designated in the salary that it's 060, which is the code that it comes out of. And I think those are part of what they're trying to work out, to determine whether or not the maintenance of effort was made, but the truth is, if it's not, then they pay money back. But there's a plan for that if it turns out that it's not.
Right, and then the other concern was that payrolls were all combined so that they couldn't even determine the staffing expenditures for each separate school. So that's going to be resolved as well.
That's already been resolved?
You're affirming that?
We made the request for that original documentation to be withdrawn from our IDEA desk audit that had all of the staff members.
Whoever
Can you hear the
speaks,
answer?
it's not coming through.
Right. Can't hear the answer.
Just speak louder into the mic. Your mic should be on.
We made the request for the original document that had all of the staff members included on the same page to be withdrawn from our IDEA desk audit and have submitted the documentation with its parsoned out per school already.
Any other discussion?
So the vote today would be with the understanding that the memorandum of effort is still on hold, but we just have confidence that there will be resolution before the state board meets in May.
That's what my motion is,
That's what I understand.
And I also think, to Claire's point of that this was a newly found before we made the original motion for them to go for a 10-year. I think combining that with what I've heard today, I felt comfortable with saying that this is going to either be resolved or almost resolved by the board meeting, and I hope that it will be fully resolved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Ashley, could you please take the roll call?
John Eldridge.
Aye.
Bruce Friend.
Aye.
Rita Hare.
Aye.
Hilda Parlay.
Approves.
Cheryl Turner.
Aye.
Bart Danielson.
Aye.
Stephen Gay.
Aye.
All right.
All right, so Langtree goes back affirmed at 10 years.
Yep. Now we've got, let's see.
Westlake.
Westlake.
I'm more worried about this one.
I thought it was Westlake,
Yes.
right?
Yes, is Westlake Preparatory Academy. You were originally presented with this information at the November meeting. The school also was present and presented at the meeting as well. For your other reminder, the school was originally placed at a 5-year because they only have 1 year of data, but they were comparable to their LEA. In January, school business also noted a concern about Westlake's dependence on CSUSA for their financial stability. Not that there were any financial concerns, but just noted that there was a lot of support coming from CSUSA for the school to be financially stable. And then CSAP voted in January for a 7-year recommendation for the school, as the data was consistent with 2 other schools that the board voted to move to a 7-year recommendation. They had 1 year of comparable data, but no other test scores. They performed at a C during the 21-22 school year, and they met growth during that year. As far as compliance, so in May of 22, you all, Ms. Hudgens or Dr. Hudgens just mentioned that there was a final IDEA not met letter sent to the school. You all were aware of that at the time of your voting. And then after voting, we were notified that there was going to be a follow-up site visit. Since your voting, that site visit has occurred. In February, the school was notified that their requirements had not been met, and were given a deadline of March 2nd. And then in March of 23, the Office of Exceptional Children met with CSUSA to discuss corrective action. OEC did receive materials on March 24th, but there were issues still noted. And I can ask, I know Dr. Hutchins has spoke some, it sounds like the Westlake prep was kind of paused yet, so you all have heard some things about Westlake, but if Dr. Hutchins has anything to add, or if you have questions for Dr. Hutchins.
Dr. Hudgens.
I don't have anything to add.
Well, I know you went through, the whole process, the process with Westlake. I guess then a lot of what you're finding now, what you're getting now is documentation came from because of Westlake. So when we hear that it's moving in the right direction, that you're getting so we really are talking about Westlake, even though they use the same process for everybody, but we're really talking about Westlake. So I guess as we've had the conversation, like we had the conversation about Langtree, and what still was needed, is it really Westlake still the same thing?
Yeah, it's still in the process of, we've got more information, we reviewed what they gave us on Sunday, we have a small update, we're still going through that information, still clarifying what's left, still working through the process.
So it's not really that Westlake it has more issues than the other schools. It's just that Westlake is where you went and did the desk
We're
up.
farther in the process with Westlake.
Okay.
What's that right there?
Lost. Oh, that's my German. Sorry.
Right here.
Oh, the MOE is off by $9,000.
Oh, I thought that, okay, 9,000. I saw that other figures come, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So we had recommended them for 7.
Originally 5, moved it to 7.
Based upon comparison to other schools that
Yeah.
we also moved to 7, or that were recommended to 7.
In all honesty, if we're using the same data for all 3 schools, because it's really Westlake data, but because they are a unit, or
Charter Schools USA.
there's lots of them, yeah. Because of that, we are assuming that we're going to see the same issues everywhere. I think we have to use the same criteria we used for the last one.
Yeah, I agree.
I see that too, Cheryl.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we affirm our recommendation from January 2023 for Westlake to receive a 7-year renewal.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Same as last one. Have it cleaned up by the state board meeting in May.
Do we want to put that as a stipulation, or are we just saying that?
We didn't put that as a stipulation.
On the last one, but
Well,
we
the
can go
other-
back and revote it if we wanted.
I'd like to ask a question. The getting things resolved requires, a couple of things. One is goodwill on all parties, which I think we certainly have. The other is time and resources to deal with this issue when there are many other things that burden us. And so one question I've got is whether or not, in this case, both the school and the Office of Charter Schools actually have sufficient resources to resolve this quickly, because it's dragged on for a while. And so is that something that if we were to stipulate that it actually can happen in a hurry, or are there reasons that it might not be able to happen in a hurry?
That would really be a question for the Office of Exceptional Children, because our office is bringing this to you after being notified from that office, but they are the ones that are doing the significant legwork of this work, having to go through these documents and trying to work with Charter Schools USA.
And I assume that we don't have unlimited personnel there.
No.
Is there any reason that this
Nowhere
would
in
be
DPI.
Yeah. Is this doable in that regard? Can it be cleaned up in a month?
I think on the part of the OEC, we'll make our good faith effort, and I think that we will do our best to provide information that they're moving in a positive direction, have things resolved, and to what degree things are resolved, if not completely resolved. We'll do our best.
I would add, and I'm not gonna speak for the state board, I'm only gonna go by based on what I know we've gone through for the last year and a half with issues when it comes to federal funding or EC, is that I think one thing that'll go a long way is to show at least that there was it was coding error, or there was a communication issue between one system and the other, as opposed to something nefarious being done or intentionally being done to misspend or misappropriate funds. And I think,
Not serve kids.
and we haven't done anything to the services of the students, so whether or not we can get full resolution before May 4th, I think anything that gets uncovered that shows that we're going in the right direction and we've figured out what the basis of the issue is would be a great report from the school or from the OEC for the state board to be able to look at these recommendations that we're making and know that we've done our due diligence.
If I were, again, in the state board shoes, what I would want to see is that there's a good faith effort on all parties and that it can be resolved.
Right. And be fixed for the future.
It can be
because of
fixed for
this
the future, right, and that, because as I say, there are always resource limitations that can slow the process down, but if the process is moving forward, that's what I would want to see.
I agree. I think I'm hearing them say that they're committed to that. I would be reluctant to put the stipulation that it has to be resolved by May 4th.
I agree.
Because it might be, they might be in
limiting.
this podium and say, yeah, but we're 6 weeks away. Well, but you didn't meet the stipulations that CSAP put in front of you.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I think not the stipulation, but I think it's going to do our hearts good, and I think it'll help the state board to know that the the OEC feels confident that the problem is being addressed the way that they would expect it to be, and that it's going to be fixed in the future.
Right.
So that the next 10-year renewal, we're not having this conversation again, right?
Discussion. We have a motion in a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none.
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Approves.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
Stephen Gay.
Aye.
All right, one more.
All right, one more.
So Cabarrus Charter Academy, you all were originally presented with their information at the December meeting. The school also presented at the time of the meeting in December. There were no compliance issues noted. This again was a school that the vote was pushed to February due to a delay in receiving the audit. There were no issues noted from that audit in the presentation in February. And then CSAP voted in February for a 3-year recommendation. Compliance issues that have been since updated since that meeting are kind of two-pronged. There's federal programs and then also the EC compliance. The EC compliance is, well, they're not the same school, same issue as you heard from Langtree. So it's the MOE and then also the verification is currently on hold as they work through with the other schools. For federal programs, there were findings and an ESSER monitoring review, and the school received an update as of January 31st that they still needed to submit documentation for 4 different PRCs. Following that, the school did receive 3 more notices of missing documentation. Those happened on February 14th, March 2nd, and March 28th. Since that time, we did receive a notification from Dr. Townsend from federal programs very early this morning that Cabarrus, that their findings have been cleared and that they will be issued a letter stating that they are currently in full compliance. So that issue has been cleared up, although there were several notices to get there. And then, like I said, the EC issue is identical to Langtree, it appears.
Okay, so.
I'm glad to hear that that issue's been resolved.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you want to give somebody from Charter USA the opportunity to speak to the health of this school with regard to the academics and just the financial non-compliances with ESSER. I mean, is it something that you wanted to address or make sure that the state board heard with regard to the 3-year recommendation? Or are you guys comfortable with where things are?
I will take a stab at that. I think Cabarrus was recommended for a 3-year, and at that point, it did have some non-compliance. Some of those matters have cleared up. We are seeing some positive academic trends, even with our internal formative data from the school. So on behalf of the school, if we could advocate for a 5-year, I would put forth a 5-year request for Cabarrus.
Did they get any stipulations in the state board meeting?
They were not brought up at the state board meeting.
I don't think reason to.
I don't think you can.
No.
I don't think they'll take it. Yeah, it's open for discussion.
It's open for discussion. I'm not really comfortable with raising it to a 5-year.
I am not either. Hilda Parlay.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we affirm our vote from February 2023 for a 3-year renewal.
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none.
John Eldridge,
Aye.
Bruce Friend,
Aye.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Approves.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Bart Danielson,
Aye.
Stephen Gay.
Aye.
Okay, so these 3 schools will go back to state board in May, along with the final vote on IC Transform and Next Generation. We will be in contact with EC to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information prior to that May presentation. And then, of course, with Charter Schools USA, just keep us updated. I will be doing a presentation in May, so please make sure that everybody's communicating so I have all that information. And we'll go from there.
Dr. Hutchins, thank you to your office for all the work that you guys have been doing. I appreciate also Charter USA bringing the team and taking this serious and for working with DPI to get this resolved. And I'm with Ms. Turner here with, it will be nice to see you come to the NC side of things to help clear some of this stuff up.
Mm-hmm. Those of us who did not necessarily come from here have figured out that life is so much easier if you just go North Carolina.
I ditto that, Cheryl.
All right, so we have the annual report. I can fly through that now, or we can break for lunch and do it after, whatever you guys would like.
What do you guys want to do?
Done?
Do it now.
All right.
Do it now.
Okay, Natasha, do you want to do it now? All right, so every year we have the annual report. I'm going to make it short and sweet this year. As you know, the Charter Schools Act that was passed in 1996 established the charter school community, of which most of you are a part. If we take a look at the current demand, so as a reminder, this annual report takes a look primarily at the 2022 school year, but I do have some more, some current data as well. So as of the December 1st, 2022 head count, there were over 137,500 North Carolina students enrolled in charter schools. Self-reported data from the charter schools indicate that 85% of charter schools had a wait list totaling over 77,000 students. And I always like to disclose that a wait list could have duplicates, but that is still certainly a strong showing. In addition, there has been a national review of enrollment trends during the pandemic that is linked in the report. And nationally, there's been a significant increase in charter school enrollment. I think most of us have seen that in the media. But with North Carolina in particular, we show the nation's 5th highest growth in enrollment between 2019 and 2021 school years. So those pre and post-pandemic years, with an increase of nearly 19%. And currently, charter schools students are representing over 9% of the public school enrollment. Charter school authority and oversight, as most of you know, there is Article 14A, which assigns the State Board of Education the sole authority of charter school oversight. State Board makes most of the final decisions regarding charter school actions, and they are, of course, assisted by you, who makes those recommendations, and then our office, the Office of Charter Schools, is staffed to CSAB and also State Board. The North Carolina Charter Schools Advisory Board, your powers and duties are actually created expressly in statute, mainly to make recommendations to the State Board of Education on the adoption of rules, to review applications, recommendations on renewals, non-renewals, those the sort of things we've really been engaged in the last few months, and you are very aware of. Our current membership, there were a lot of changes over the last year or two in CSAB membership, almost a full turnover in the board. So you can see that most of the terms are ending in June of 2025. I think there's been some effort to make a staggered process, and hopefully maybe down the road we'll get there, because as of right now, it will be a major turnover in June. And then, of course, Cheryl, unfortunately, the end of her term will be June of this year. The Office of Charter Schools is staffed to CSAB. We are currently fully staffed with 6 consultants, a shared admin, and an executive director. And we are in the process of adding 2 additional consultants. If we take a look at the historical staffing, you can see here from the lifting of, well, actually a little bit prior to the lifting of the cap in 2011, staffing has really stayed completely flat, and you can see the over doubling of charter schools in the state. We are looking forward to having 2 additional staff members, which will be the first time in many, many years that we would have 8 consultants. Our, much like the CSAB, the Office of Charter Schools duties are also laid out in And to be honest, the academic support and turnaround is something we want to be able to focus more on with our low performing schools. And stakeholder support, and kind of partnerships with internal and external folks is really taking a lot of time from the team now, and we need more to be able to better focus on that. And then the accountability team would be focused on performance framework, renewals, risk assessments, reports, and rules. And that would allow these three teams to kind of focus their work together, to collaborate more, communicate more, that sort of thing.
And just, I guess I'm to assume in the support bucket, that would be for, is the majority of that focus gonna be on the low performing schools?
Yeah, I definitely envision a specific academic support team that could, go and do more more in-person site visits, being on the ground with the schools. But also, we with the more charter schools we have and the more students, we field a lot of questions and requests and calls from parents and families and, students, former employees that are looking for records. It's nonstop, and so, that would also focus a lot on just the support we have with external folks. Joseph probably gets at least one, transcript or some type of record request every week, which can take a lot of time. Charter accountability is laid out in numerous ways, obviously statute, rules, and policy, but also the charter agreement, which lays out a long line of responsibilities for the board retaining the charter. We have academic monitoring, the performance framework, the renewal process, and then closures. And although the renewal process has been quite lengthy and in depth this year, I do think that it's a really good showing of what the renewal process is supposed to be. Right? If it went smoothly and things went by really quickly, I don't know that would be an accurately in-depth renewal process. So I think that it's showing that it's working. Charter closures and termination. So at the conclusion of last year, we had 4 closures actually. 2 charters were revoked, 1 was relinquished, and 1 was not renewed. Since '98, there has been a total of 87 charter terminations, and that includes schools that have opened and closed, and then those that were in the planning process and then closed. 53 have voluntarily relinquished, 11 have been non-renewed, 1 was assumed, and 22 have been revoked. The performance framework is our annual monitoring. This is a method by which we try to monitor the schools academically, operationally, and financially. One of our small teams, using Epicenter, reviews submissions from each school. This year, for example, there were 3,500 documents received and reviewed. This comes from a group of 46 different indicators. All schools can measure a maximum of 41 criteria. So for example, like renewal schools will have additional ones. So you might not have all 46, but most are around 40 criteria that we are requiring them to submit some type of evidence of, and then staff are reviewing everything from a fire inspection to academic data. And that process continues to show really good that depending on legislation that could potentially pass, there could be some changes to the application process, so we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. For this report, I did a little bit of research into just authorizing across the country because I find it very interesting to see, comparatively, and North Carolina is quite unique. Across the country, there are a number of different authorizers. There's non-governmental entities, there's nonprofit organizations, state education agencies such as DPI and this, what we consider our authorizer, higher education institutes, independent chartering boards, and local LEAs. So the vast majority of authorizers across the country are local LEAs, 849 of them. 22 are state education authorizers. So we're kind of one of those small, first and minority in terms of how we authorize. And then we are actually only one of 6 states with a single SEA authorizer. So we only have one type of authorizer that can essentially give a charter, the State Board of Education. And in addition, that is the only one. It's when SEAs in general don't do much authorizing, but we also are unique in that there are no other authorizers. So it all goes through this board and DPI. In addition, if we look at the average ratio of schools per authorizer, you will see that the average ratio for an SEA such as ours is 76 schools. We of course have 206, so we're more than double the national average. If we look at the average number of schools per full-time authorizing staff, 80% of all authorizers within the country have a ratio of no more than 10 schools per full-time employee. Our ratio is currently 34.3 schools per consultant. So it is interesting to see, we do it in a unique way. I do feel very strongly that strong authorizing is the key to strong charter schools. And the processes we do within our office in terms of ready to open and supporting these schools and working with exceptional children's and all the other DPI divisions that work for charter schools. So I think it's important for, definitely for the General Assembly, but also just for stakeholders in general to see kind of where we are nationally, and especially as the charter school numbers continue to rise. If we look at charter application trends, the average number received between 96 and last year is about 32 applications. And the average approval rate is 26.26%. So about a quarter of those applications are approved. Looking at enrollments, since the cap is lifted, we've gone from 100 to 206. We've got 204 brick and mortar schools operating in 64 counties, and 2 virtual charter schools, as you are aware of. And I think this next graph is pretty telling for the enrollments since 2019 and gives you kind of a visual of that massive growth we've had since the pandemic. In 2019, we had almost 116,000 students, and now we are closing in on 138,000. All right, taking a look at our demographics and special populations. This is the 2022 headcount data from October 1st. You can see that in most regards, charters and LEAs for ethnicity and racial data are pretty similar. Hispanic is where the Hispanic subgroup is where we continue to see a rather large gap, although we're definitely seeing an increase in enrollment among Hispanics in charter schools. But in general, the LEAs continue to enroll more.
I have a question about that.
Uh-huh.
And I may not even have a good understanding of what the numbers really look like here, but do we know whether or not there's a difference between Hispanic citizens and undocumented Hispanic children?
For this data, there would not be a differentiation.
Well, the schools, at the school level, we don't even know.
Yeah.
When we stopped asking for social security cards years ago and birth certificates. And so, I guess we still get the birth certificate, but you could be born someplace else and be a citizen.
Right.
and we don't, we just don't know.
The reason I asked that question is my understanding is that undocumented families tend to be reluctant to initiate interactions that require them to fill out documents. That's the whole undocumented element, and so they would be reluctant to apply to a charter school, perhaps.
There's been quite a bit of research done on this, and having worked specifically with English language learners previously in my time in the classroom, I think you're absolutely right. One is that if that is a case where some families just don't want to interact with like public, agencies. Also, there's the language barrier, which is why I think it's very important if you have applicants coming before you that say they want to target Hispanic populations, but don't have any plans to do, for example, translations or provide documentation in both English and Spanish. That doesn't show me that you actually want to commit to enrolling Hispanic children. The other, something else that has been noted is that there's actually not a word for charter school in Spanish. So oftentimes for Hispanic families, when they hear the word charter school, they assume that they have to pay for it, that it's similar to a private school. The previous school I worked at was primarily Hispanic students, and they went above and beyond to make sure that, one, it was a lot of word of mouth of how kids got there, but also everything went out in English and Spanish. During all of our parent conferences, all of our events at school have translators. So you have to really work at that, and I think that charter schools hopefully are learning more about how to actually target that population, because they tend to really be interested in charter schools and certain curriculums, and they also are the fastest rising demographic in the state.
One of the things at our school, we don't generally know what your documentation status is until you get ready to graduate from high school. And then when we go to try to help kids go to college or whatever, that's the first time they reveal to us that they're undocumented. And that we've had that be a huge surprise. Kids we had forever, and then they get ready to graduate from high school, and now they have to tell us that they're not
Filling
documented.
out a FAFSA form becomes difficult if your parents don't file tax returns.
Yeah.
Because there are no documents that they exist.
Yeah.
The parents don't exist in the financial world.
Right. And that's the first time we've had several children that we had no idea, and then they got ready to go to school, and we were like, oh, okay, you have to do some different stuff.
So looking at students with disabilities, the number of students with disabilities is increasing slightly. It seems to average over the last few years around 10.5, and it's a few percentage points below the average for the traditional schools. But fairly similar, especially when you take a look at the next slide, which is English language learners. And again, this goes back to some of the issues we just discussed, but the English language students or the English learners tend to enroll primarily, or at least over double, in traditional public schools, as opposed to charter schools.
And that's interesting when you look at where we are in terms of Hispanic students, but those who require services are not applying.
Right, correct. Yeah. And again, I think that goes a lot to, do you have that accessibility? Are you marketing your school as a school that's going to be able to provide multiple languages? And then if we look at economically disadvantaged students, all charters was just under 31%, and all LEAs, so the traditionals, was about 37.26%. So again, it's certainly increased over the years. Looking at charter school access, we usually, we kind of think of access in a number of ways, but we really look at transportation, whether a school has a plan in place to make sure that that's not a barrier for students, and we are consistently seeing that busing is increasing. So now more than half of our benefit of NC Access has been the PD and the leadership that they've been able to provide, not only to the sub-grantee schools, but also to Restart schools that have taken advantage of that, and other invitations we've opened up to all charter schools. So that includes their Fellowship Institute, the Educational Equity Aspiring Minority Leaders Program, the Transformative Executive Leadership Program, Letters Training, and Teach Like a Champion Training. And we've gotten really great feedback on all of those programs. If we look at charter school performance, you had a more in-depth review of academic data earlier this year, so I won't go too much into that. But we had over 27% of charter schools received a performance grade of an A or a B, and 62.6% met or exceeded growth. So I think looking at the difference between the percentage of those schools that are making A and Bs, and then the much higher percentage of those meeting or exceeding growth, goes to the entire conversation that has been taking place with the state board, which is, do we look at schools and give an accurate representation of how they are performing academically when we are looking at 80% proficiency and only 20% growth? However, that's what we have now, and that's what we have to utilize. And based on that model, we had 67 low-performing schools after this last data, which was about a doubling of that. That's also similar for traditional publics. I believe they had a doubling as well. I think they have 600 and something at this point, maybe even more. But I wanted to show one thing that I found very interesting. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a tool on Best NC that allows you to basically play with the modeling of performance grades. And so this first slide right here shows you the current growth model with 80% achievement and 20% growth. And this is how our charter schools stand out. So we have 7 A's, 46 B's, 65 C's, 58 D's, and 19 F's. If we were to change that modeling and flip it to 80% growth, as you can see on the next slide, we now have no F schools. We have 15 D's, 70, I believe that's a 76 maybe, C's, and then 82 B's and 22 A's. So the number of low-performing schools, essentially, it almost eliminates the low-performing schools. This is very similar if you do this for traditional schools as well. And so I'm optimistic and hopeful that there will be a change to the way we determine school performance grades, and allows us to take growth more into account, especially for those schools that are working with students in poverty and other areas that require more resources. All right, if we look at funding and membership, from last year to this year, we had an increase of about $85 million. So you can see the 21 ADM accounted for 8.8% of the state's total ADM funding. And then this year, it's about 8.9%. So obviously, that's concurrent with the increase in the enrollments, the increase in the funding. Any questions? I went through that fast, but.
Good job.
I don't have a question, but I can tell you that my head almost exploded when I saw 6 people for 206 schools, and then the 10 I mean, was it 3 or 10 buckets? 3 buckets with 10 things that you have to accomplish. So applaud you and your crew for the work you're doing, and I know you guys will be happy if you get a couple more folks that join on board. But also, I've thought about this before, and I'm not talking for anyone but me, but I've got to think that there's got to be a way to network the higher performing schools and the administrations that are there to assist you in where you guys are having issues with schools that you can't maybe get to that need support in our area. I'm not going to speak for any other leaders because I know everybody's busy, but I got to think that there's things that we can do that would be able to assist as you guys are trying to do all the compliance and all the applications and all the other things that you can do. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a way to get information on that and find out who'd be willing to help, but I know several, like Alex Quigley helps me out. I call Bruce all the time. I email Chuck. So I know that there's got to be some way to create a network where we can help support those low-performing schools to
And that's part
pull
of
things
our,
up.
desire to have more of an academic support team, and move away from PD, so like a conference type PD, and
On-site.
on-site intervention, and like, maybe having like regional kind of networking where folks that are in the same region could get together and high-performing and low-performing leaders could meet and kind of share, best practices and that sort of thing. So it's definitely something we'd like to.
Thank you for everything that you all do for us.
How about put something in perspective in terms of just the amount of work that this office does and has done for many, many years. I had a conversation with a gentleman recently. He's just moved to North Carolina, and he worked in LA County, Los Angeles County, and they have about 300 charter schools just in LA County alone. But he talked about how their Office of Charter Schools in LA County had over 30 employees to support those schools. So you think of that proportionally. We don't have 300, but you're doing this statewide with 206 schools and significantly less staff. So, thank you all.
Thank you. And before we go, I have just a short update. I wanted to give you a rundown of the state board motions because they were pretty important. So there, and first of all, a huge thank you to Jenna and Cheryl, who handled state board when I was gone. And I listened back to the live stream, so it was a lot. It was very interesting if you haven't listened. So thank you guys, and then also Nikki, who helped give me the draft for the annual report, which was awesome to have someone help this year on that. So state board did have a long discussion on renewals. Some very interesting topics came up, and they made more in-depth stipulations than I've seen. I think so. I wanted to kind of go through those with you so you had an idea of what was upcoming and what we were working on. They accepted all of your 10-year and your 7-year recommendations. For your 3 years, they pulled out Monroe Charter Academy, Paul R. Brown, Rocky Mount, and Apprentice Academy, and I believe mainly because of their academic standing. And they approved a 3-year charter for those schools with the following stipulations. So one, they must submit to our office by July 31st a 3-year plan designed to improve instruction and address all deficiencies that have been cited by our school over the last our office over the last 2 academic years. Plan must include specific research-based strategies that are designed and proven to be effective in increasing instructional outcomes. The plan must be presented to the Charter Schools Advisory Board at its August meeting. You don't normally have an August meeting, so we will get in touch about scheduling a special conference or a special club meeting. If the Charter Schools Advisory Board does not find the submitted plan is likely to result in academic outcomes for students, it will make recommendation for changes, and then it will be included in the plan in order to obtain your approval. Or you may determine what changes need to be made and direct that they be made. Each school must implement with fidelity the improvement plan approved by CSAB, or it will not be eligible for a further charter. They must, so there's a second component, training. They must, for each academic year, all members of the board and its principal leadership, school director and school principal, must participate in at least 5 leadership or instructional practice training modules or sessions offered or recommended by the Office of Charter Schools or CSAB. All teachers must receive meaningful training by an experienced educational professional on how to improve instructional outcomes. The schools must meet or exceed academic growth standards for at least 2 of the next 3 years. And during the next 3 years of its charter, each of these schools must not have any financial compliance warnings and must comply with all legal requirements, including federal exceptional children's and regulations.
Wow.
Yeah. So the next step in our office is to, we have notified the schools. The next step in our office is to try to design some type of plan for us to make sure that we can keep up with the timeline for this and monitoring these schools. And then I will be in touch in terms of trying to find a good date in August to have these schools present these plans. So that would be Monroe, Paul R. Brown, Rocky Mount, and Princess. So we'll be more in touch on that. And then Zecca, you had recommended that they be non-renewed. They were actually approved for a 3-year with stipulations, very similar stipulations, except a bit of a more
part of it is if we don't think the plan is adequate, we're to make suggestions to improve it.
Correct. Yeah, essentially, it sounds like they want you to approve a plan, so either you give them, at the presentation, you say like, this is what needs to be approved, or this is what needs to be changed, and we'll approve it based on you changing that, and you can direct us to confirm that it's been approved. It's probably the best way to go about it, because it will be.
Okay, what if, I guess my question is, are we approving what they design, or are we essentially providing
The plan.
improvement plans for them?
We create
Because
plans.
that makes a whole bunch of difference in terms of how we come prepared.
They have to they have to submit that plan. It says the school must submit to the charter school office a 3-year plan designed to improve instruction.
So if we make recommendations for them to change their plan, that means they're gonna have to come back for us to approve that it's been done, or are they gonna have to submit that to you for approval? Because it sounds like we only have 1 month to do that, right? Because they have to be done by June 30th.
I think we approve it or.
don't
And if it's
approve it.
denied,
Well, 'cause it said
Their
something-
livelihood for their school, they need to provide a plan, and
and if we
approve it or no.
So we're not, but this sounds like the SBE is telling us to make improvements to it. It didn't say deny it or approve it.
Yeah, it says something about it making
Are we allowed to deny it?
They have to approve it.
What does that say?
That's a good point. It says if the CSAB does not find that the submitted plan is likely to result in improved academic outcomes, it will make recommendations, so you guys would make recommendations or changes that must be included in the plan in order to obtain CSAB's approval.
But again, to achieve our approval, they can come before us, present to us, and if we just don't think it's gonna work,
if it just has no merit.
just like we reaffirm our desire that this school not be renewed.
We don't need a.
But don't we give suggestions?
Because it sounds
Make
to me,
changes with the plan.
When I heard you present that, it sounded to me like we're saying that here's our plan. What did you guys not like? And then we tell them what we didn't like, and they're supposed to fix it for our approval.
That's what I'm reading from this, motion. is
That's
that
what I understand.
The state board wants you to approve it, but you can make recommendations as to how they need to improve it.
Prior
It's
to
not-
us voting, which is the last sentence, we can
Right.
still not renew it. That's still on the table.
Did you say that?
Well, it says failure to have a CSAB approved plan in place by June 30th will result in termination. So essentially, they have to get your approval by June 30th or their charter terminates.
So we're gonna meet with them in May and June then. May we have to review their plan, and if we approve the plan in May, they're good to go, but if we make any corrections to it, we're gonna have to meet with them again in
Let's come
June.
back in June.
Meet with them in June, period, because they don't have to turn it in until May 31st. So that gives us they turn it into us, May 31st, that gives us a week to review it and send it to you, before the June 6th meeting.
So then that June meeting would be the one where we say,
It's
yes,
remote.
that's good, or no, that didn't work.
Yes, but I also don't think there's anything that prevents, if that's how you feel once you hear them present, that you're not obligated to, there's nothing prevents you from saying, I make a motion that we don't renew.
Right?
Okay.
Well, in June, we meet on the 6th, and they still have until the 30th.
They have until May 31st to submit it, and then you guys will review it, in open session on June 6th at the meeting.
Ooh, and if we don't, ooh. Well,
I don't think this is any different than,
I do
It's
because
like
I think the
low-performing
language
except we vote.
tells us we're supposed to be like providing them assistance. It doesn't say that we vote and deny.
exactly.
I mean,
We
that's
have to
nothing that
give,
prevents us from
right.
taking that action.
We have to recommend changes, how to improve it. The plan, if we don't agree,
State board, and then they
it's
said
what they
"Let's go till
submit.
June 30th and send it back.
Yeah,
Can we-
that kind of
I'm
comes
just saying
out of
that's what it feels
something that
like.
happened at the state board meeting. Mr. Keenan asked me if, when I said that their instructional plans had not been sufficient, he asked me if we had provided feedback on the plans. And we didn't at the renewal because that wasn't the place, but when they've come as low performing every year, we have provided feedback.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so there's 5 of them total: Zecca, Rocky Mount, Monroe,
Apprentice and Rocky Mountain.
Apprentice.
And Paula Brown.
Paula Brown. Paula Brown has a plan. We know their plan.
Yeah.
But the others, and honestly, when you think about it in terms of when those schools have come in to talk to us about being low performing, there haven't been any strong plans in that group.
Yeah,
They really
they have
haven't.
a lot of work ahead of them,
Yeah.
to get that. And then keep in mind, at the next state board meeting, May 4th, they will vote on the 3 charter schools USA and IC Transform in Next Gen. So,
Next gen, we sent a lot of stipulations on next gen, so that could be an issue.
stipulations on those schools.
Could be an issue.
But right now, we're focusing mainly on SECA to get, that will be our first kind of one to focus on, since they come in June.
Ashley, this is Steve Gay. Is there any way we can get some legal clarification on Bruce's question that if Zika comes, we have the right to say, no, we don't recommend them for renewal?
I'll get you something in writing.
Yep, Allison's gonna.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I think the spirit of what that recommendation was made was they're gonna present a plan to CSAP about how they're gonna turn this 10-year tide a different direction. And if there's things about that plan that we would say, have you considered this, or maybe you wanna consider this, or do, like, that's one thing. If the plan itself is just insufficient, we're not gonna rewrite it. That, to me, that's a motion that you didn't follow through on putting together
Or you
a clear plan, and you don't get to.
come here and pick our brains.
Yeah. And frankly, there's lots of people they can reach out to who they can pay to write it for them.
But they have to.
They have to implement it.
But they, no, I don't care who writes it for them. When they stand up at that podium, they better
be
be
able
able
to
to
speak it.
articulate it.
Yep.
And the board.
Yeah.
And one other clarification then for me too is, so year 1, any of these schools don't show growth, it's over right there?
They had 2 out of 3 years.
You get 2 out of 3.
But year 1
But
is this year.
and year
Right
is this
now,
year
right?
1 or is next year 1? Next year's really year 1 because that's the beginning of the new charter.
I believe it says the 3 years preceding the next
Yeah.
renewal. This year would count.
As
Yeah,
year
that's
1.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it also said
If you
very
miss it
clearly.
this
That could
year.
put you up against the
Compliance
wall, man.
Compliance warnings, that's tough for some of these schools, just to have no financial compliance law, it's a warnings,
It's,
so,
it's not what?
it states that they must not have any financial compliance warnings, so if they get any of the, probationary, cautionary, disciplinary, it sounds like that would warrant.
Are any of them in that situation now? Because some of that, it's about historical finances.
No, I believe Monroe is, they've had financial issues. Yeah,
Due to low enrollment.
yeah.
So there's one of those that you couldn't fix it because it's your audit determined it. And that probably is what the thing that Monroe is on, because it would be based on how much money you have. That could be hard to
If there's
fix.
findings in the fall, if they don't,
Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, this year's almost over, and so when you get your audit, that could be a problem.
Yeah, all of these schools will need to come frequently, I think, to CSAP to present on kind of overall compliance with these, stipulations. And then we also have, Eastside Stream, is it just Eastside Stream closed?
They closed them, didn't they?
Yes, Eastside Stream, non-renewal was approved, so now we just have to go through the process of, giving them the time to appeal, see if they appeal, and then we'll start the closure process.
Yeah. You got a lot going on. Where does closure fit in your 3 buckets?
Which bucket is that in?
And risk every Okay.
Who heads, risk up for you?
Currently, I'm still doing it, but I've got, this is my whole risk team, actually. So,
Aren't they in bucket two, too?
they're, yeah, they're in all of them. Well, we're working on it. So.
That's right, there you go. Yeah.
So we will see you guys, when is the next one?
May something or another.
I think it's May 8th, maybe?
May 8th.
Yeah, so, and we'll have the
May
RTO schools that were, that are on our concerned list for updates, and then we'll also have some of these other updates on all of the renewals and what happened with those.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, wow.
Alright, food is there and ready.
So the next two, you are up.